You're live. We got some spicy off-season roster mania stuff later. But first of all, there's an important announcement. Avast has been released from jail. He's no longer in the room of, I guess, just like the leftover office room where you were hanging out with empty cardboard boxes and stuff. They've actually upgraded you to a setup where you've got stuff on the wall. You got a plant.
Yeah, the
in
DLC
the room.
though. The DLC is frames though. The next up, I get more. I get more FPS on my camera. Is the next?
Can you wave to us? Can you wave?
What? Why is it such low FPS?
I don't know. I didn't set this up. It's on a cam
what camera
right
is it?
now. It's a Sony. Don't know. Some sort of
the Sony
The Sony of some sort. The Sony newest right off the bat. It runs off of the universal constant of the universe. It's the Sony actually.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't set this up. It's on the Camlink 4K. That's my performance review comes up in November, and that's when I'll get more FPS. So like, hopefully I'll be able to get it then.
I like you've got like a fuzzy little caterpillar at the bottom of the lens as well.
Yeah, that's actually because this is an unregistered hypercam, and so I don't have the full border. No, the full border of the cam, so I'm not allowed to access that portion yet. It's gonna be. I have to buy WinRAR. So.
Do people actually buy WinRAR?
I wonder how much money that company's ever made.
I think some people probably have.
Like, I almost feel compelled to buy WinRAR just out of the kindness of my heart because I'm just a really good
but
person.
does
Each
anyone
person that
use
buys
WinRAR?
WinRAR, I get more pixels. I use 7-zip actually.
Why wouldn't you use 7-zip?
So,
Well,
yeah,
I've always
would
just
use
used
7-zip.
WinRAR.
Well, have you always used the free version of WinRAR?
Yeah.
You're a little freeloading.
well, isn't
When
there
I was a
technically
kid,
not?
you got-
Isn't it that's supposed to be paid? It's not supposed to be a free version. You're supposed to pay for it. It's just you've stolen, and they're just like, please pay.
No, but
please pay.
it's intentional. It's like trialware. Like the whole like schemaz is that I think it's like for advertisement or something that they let you use it for free indefinitely. I'm not sure.
But
I think it's intentional.
But then
that
how
you
is that a
use it forever.
scam if you just keep getting to use it for free forever?
I mean, it's not a scam. That's why I use it. It's a good product. It's a good scam. It's a positive scam.
No,
It's a
Wait,
scam
how
with
can it be a
little
scam
smile
that's
on
good?
your face?
So all of this to announce that this episode proudly brought to you by WinRAR.
I don't understand though, but when we on episode, isn't it supposed to be 109?
Is it? No, we're filling back in for the old episodes. I'm reading that. I don't know what episode number is supposed
I had
to
a
be.
dream
Hold on,
that
let
we were
me double
recording a
check.
Plat Chat
So
episode.
you guys, I literally don't produce one episode, and you guys get the number wrong. So we literally skipped episode 104,
Yes.
and it's just lost in time. It's never coming back.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the unreleased
So-
episode.
Meanwhile,
No.
the actual unreleased episode is getting edited. The actual one.
you're getting
Is
on that.
it?
Oh, I'm cooking it up.
Yeah. Well,
There's some compromising things on Mimi and Bren in that episode as
Yeah.
well.
What did we say? I don't
need to-
remember that
They
episode.
need to be hidden and buried. Oh. Right. Now that we've sufficiently boomed everybody coming into this one, let's get on to...
I have one question before we begin.
Okay.
Mimi, why are you in the dark?
I don't like the light. This is where I feel comfortable.
right.
This is where I feel happy. All right, in here with my little gamer lights. Look, they change colors. Woo, yay,
Wow.
This is
It's
so
like a
fun.
TikTok video.
What's up, guys? I just hit this insane cliff in Valorant. Take a look.
You need a more accurate voice over. You need
Okay.
like I don't remember what's the voice sounds. It's like I just hit this. I can't do it. I can't fucking
It's
do
like,
a robot.
yeah,
I
it's
can't do
the
a
AI.
robot.
Yeah, it's the AI.
You know what I'm
voice.
talking about.
Except
Though.
people,
All you
they've got
TikTokers
different-
out there, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, all you TikTokers. That's how I relate to the kids.
I'm not
as well.
ready for this episode.
This episode has got a wild component to it. We're going to do a topic later on where we all picked a team. And actually, this idea was sent to me by a viewer. And then
It was sent
also
to, I think,
Bala,
everyone.
Bala just came up with the idea himself, though. The viewer got in touch with me afterwards and was like, I didn't get in touch with Bala. And Bala just decided to come up with the idea live in the previous episode.
I feel like Bola trolled because that guy either that or the message person like subliminally implanted the idea in Bola's head because I got the message and in the message he
Inception
sent to
shit.
me he said he sent it to everyone on the
Yes,
show.
but
So,
he said afterwards to me that he didn't send it to Bala. Anyway, why are we even having this discussion? It doesn't really matter where we
important.
attribute the credit.
Because Bala is a liar, and we
Bala
should censor
lies.
him for it.
Yeah. So anyway, there's an idea. Each of us have picked a team, and we are going to represent a team as the general manager, and we are going to outline our budget pitch.
I thought
What have you
What?
done?
You've already
again?
fucked it
I
up?
thought we were pitching for the position of general manager.
Well, that can also work.
I
Sure.
mean-
Okay.
That can also work. If you're
What did-
proposing your plan as well, then yeah, that's also fine. We're gonna do that in a second. First of all, we've got some other housekeeping to do. First of all, off-season tournaments. They have started, and some of them content creator tournaments, some of them show matches featuring teams that may or may not exist.
I was in bed scrolling on TikTok the other day.
Yeah.
This is related to the off-season tournaments.
Okay.
And the weird thing about us doing Valorant commentary
Yeah.
is that now I'll be scrolling and I'll hear our voices. And I was in bed and the Sabrosa Flash lineup moment happened from that tournament.
Yeah.
And listen, guys, Valorant's doing well. The Zoomers are enjoying it.
Good.
There was a lot of views, a lot of clicks, a lot of likes, and we're getting clout. That's what you need to know.
Clout that you can't ever try to find because I just never use TikTok. So
Yeah.
that's real worth to me.
It's like when we were in Overwatch and there was like this clouted section of Tumblr centered around the Overwatch League that we would never see or touch.
I wasn't
but it was
even
just
aware
there.
that was a thing. I wasn't
That
even
is
aware that was a
definitely
thing to this day.
Okay.
Definitely was a thing. There's
Did
also
you
all
interact with the
fanfics,
Tumblr Overwatch
so-
community, you've asked?
My community did, and not so much I didn't personally, but my community did, and still does in some ways. And so, like, I've also seen the fan fiction clout sides of Overwatch,
Yeah.
where like
Have you
there's an
seen your
even
fan
smaller
page on
subgenre
Tumblr?
of
No.
fan fiction.
Do you want to see it?
No. Let's
It's
move
from
on.
like a website called like AO3 or something like that. Or
Oh, that's the-
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like a fan fiction website.
Yeah,
Did
that's
someone
a fan
write
fiction
Josh
website.
fan fiction?
Exactly. I'm glad you've clued in here, Mimi, to the fan fiction discussion. So that's exactly
Anyway.
right.
This is a dark road to start
Yeah, this
heading
is-
down, I think.
that
And
we
not
shouldn't go
particularly
down this
related.
path.
You said it was related. It's not particularly related.
This was a non
Best
sequitur.
case, tangentially related. All right. They did release, however, all of their announcements for the off-season tournaments. Maybe they'll add some others to it, but they announced like, what, 10, 20 different tournaments? So starting with the Americas one, I put out a tweet afterwards saying, oh, okay, love all of these ideas, but only one of the Americas tournaments is actually gimmickless. All of the other ones have some like agent draft picks or agent bans or something like that, or it's a content creator cup, which I'm not a big fan of, but maybe they'll be cool. Just kind of scrolling through them. There's a Brazilian tournament that looks pretty decent. The Boom TV one is one with agent pick bans. The Knights is a singular limb March Madness style, but also has agent draft picks. So you can't have more than one on each team. So
Do you think they've done this
strange.
to encourage teams to play in it? The argument being that if you've built your roster and you don't want to show anything before the big February tournament,
It's in 4 months.
I
man.
know.
It's not
It
even
doesn't
gonna be
make
the same
it doesn't make
meta.
any logical sense. But do you think the TOs are coming at it from that angle where they're like, we've got permission to do this. If we do this, teams are more likely to join up because they don't have to reveal.
I don't.
stuff.
Here's my headcanon goes like this: man in a suit who wears a tie to every meeting says we've got to differentiate ourselves. We need some kind of brand that pushes this tournament as a unique one in the off season. And someone goes, well, what about like agent picks to do that in like league and stuff and drafting and that kind of stuff? And he goes, yes, I like that. And he adjusts his tie and goes, very well, Jenkins, and strides out on to fuck up another idea. So that to me is my headcanon on how these kind of things happen, because no one really wants them, as far as I can tell, other than the people who run the tournaments. So it's got to just be someone at the top.
What if
in
it
my
was
head.
less nefarious than that, and they were doing it as an experiment to be like, maybe, especially since a lot of these center around agent bans or agent pick bans and drafting, what if the goal isn't so much, we're doing this solely to be gimmicky, we're doing this to test various features that we could implement later across other.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because it's like, it's fully third parties. I believe Josh's idea more, that it is just man in a suit wants special tournament. I don't remember what it was, but I worked a tournament that had pick and ban. Like, people have done this before, and it's
Yeah.
always just a gimmick. The
There was
point is always just to
Cloud9
have a gimmick to tie
Cloud9 won the
people in.
tournament at the beginning of Cloud9 won a tournament at the beginning of this year that had pick and ban.
Yes.
And Japan, that is not how you pronounce that country. Japan had a tournament that they ran back in 2020 or something that had pick ban. It was called like AWS or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was called like the Sidewinder tournament or
Yeah, that
something.
was
Damn, they better run that by Jim Bezos. That's the acronym for their Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't AWS. I can't quite remember.
I remember being really annoyed at the tournament that Cloud9 was in because I was trying to pull stats in for stage 1, and
Yeah.
it was tainting the pool of stats.
Yeah, it was just a different
It
game.
was just a tournament where I don't know, you had to ignore all of the stats on it.
But I suppose in some sense, some people will find it cool that there's agent pick bans and that kind of stuff in the game. To me, though, it makes the tournament less interesting. I'd be really interested in a single elim tournament. A single elim, like the Knights Freeze Out is what they're calling it. But it's like a March Madness tournament. Anyone can kind of get an upset win and win a March Madness tournament, it feels. I think that would be a really cool idea. But then the agent draft picking just adds another layer of what the fuck is going on into that that I'm not a big fan of. But maybe that's just my own opinions on what is pure competition. However, there are actual tournaments. You know, Bala was talking about last week the fact that we shouldn't, Bala was saying it's a bad sign for the off-season when there's only these small tournaments being announced. There's tons of tournaments in here. There's going to be a lot of content.
Yeah, a lot of them centered around Brazil, though, no?
Yeah, quite
Brazil
a lot of
Latam.
Brazilian ones, yeah.
But outside of that, where is it the Ludwig Tarek? Is that the only one where it's a normal tournament?
Yes, I think so. I think the Ludwig
But you gotta
Tarek-
put your best foot forward with it.
Yeah.
Ludwig Tarek. You gotta have your best foot forward.
This concept, though, sounds awesome because they do have that like little twist. The hook is Ludwig and Tarek are going to be involved and doing a show match. But then, as far as it says here in this paragraph, it's just a normal tournament. The best international pro Valorant team, but also additionally has a content creator exhibition show match. So that to me is the best of both worlds, where
This
you
is
hook
the next
people in.
level
And,
of co-streaming.
yeah, it actually is.
You take your
You're
money that you
co-playing.
earn from co-streaming and you invest it in a tournament that you can then co-stream to get infinite fucking money. It's the infinite money hack, and they found it. Ludwig and Tarek are just going to be circling their own content.
Yeah, I think it's genius. I think that's a very, very clever idea.
Yeah.
There's
I don't know.
also
I just wish there was more real. I just wish there was more tournaments where we actually got to see like teams on lands. Because for the other regions, like things are kind of popping off. Like I don't know if you guys saw, there's gonna be one in the Middle East that is like a massive land tournament, the BME Superdome,
Yeah, we talked
$30,000
about
prize
that.
You
pool
scroll
in Cairo.
down on
Like
that
that's
article.
awesome.
yeah.
On the
That's
article, it
awesome.
says, if you scroll down, all the other regions.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff happening in Korea as well. There it is, the Superdome above the Glute Clash. Yeah. Some good, yeah, which is interesting. But I mean, there's only 2 EMEA teams and the rest of the teams are Middle East, North Africa teams as well. So I don't know. That one might be fairly interesting, but I imagine it'll mostly just be kind of Fnatic running over people. But it depends who's in their roster as well, right? Part of the off-season fun is getting to see some of these new rosters potentially playing. Yeah, there's just a bunch of stuff. Do you want to just scroll through and we'll just vaguely look at things? Northeption are playing some show match tournaments, which probably indicates that they thought they were getting into partnerships.
Yeah. What's the
playing against the
ratio overall to what you would say silly champ tournaments to not silly champ tournaments? Do you think for the rest of the world, like, are they getting like 60 to 70% silly to 30% not?
No, in
should I say
North
like
America,
67%
just for North
non-silly?
America, Connor. In North America, it's 75% silly. In the rest of the world, I think there's like 2 silly tournaments out of 20.
So
Something
they have like
that.
less than 10% of their silly is for their tournaments, and the rest are real tournaments with actual, including their partner teams. Is like potentially they're gonna have partners.
Yeah, potentially. I don't think all of them.
They don't know who's gonna be involved.
Yeah.
Right now though.
But some have invited partner teams and some don't. But I would encourage people, if you're interested in like a certain region, or there's tournaments happening in France and there's tournaments happening in Korea and stuff like that. If you live in a region and you want to attend a tournament, it looks like the off season actually is going to give you plenty of opportunity to do that, which is pretty cool.
To be a tier 2 differential as well, like let's say for example, because I know there were already lots of rumblings in Valorant even before partnership of sort of that unsustainable tier 2 ecosystem, right? Because everyone, no matter how healthy your game is, for the most part, tier 2 is a wasteland in terms of like trying to get like wages, trying to get like, unless you were like North American CS orgs paying like $8,000 a month for a roster that got 200 views a year for some reason, and the suddenly shockingly CS is dead in North America. I don't know what's conclusion there to be found, but the overall point is I wonder if like a lot of these other regions, they have a much more stable like VRL style system, and they have like a lot more feeder tier 2 teams and like non-partner teams that are still willing to participate in the ecosystem, right? Without partnership status.
I think there's probably
Because I
gonna
feel like
be
that
a
might
bunch of
play a
tier 2
role.
NA teams too that participate. We'll have to see, but yeah, there certainly seems to be opportunities here to test your mettle against some of the partnership teams. I would imagine that it is going to be mostly tier 2 organizations that compete in these because the partnership teams are still figuring their shit out. Although actually by October 15th, everyone needs to have already figured their shit out.
Yeah, they
so-
should have had a roster.
So I suppose that is kind of early, and you should be able to participate in some of these. Are you excited for some of these, Mimi? I saw you kind of cracking up in the corner. What was that about?
Okay, so I wasn't laughing about the thing. I don't want to get us too off topic here, but I did find the AO3 article with fan fiction written about involved was it's tagged with Sideshow, Josh Wilkinson, Brennan Hook, Mr. X, Matt
That is
Morello,
not-
shaving,
I'll tell you
public
now-
shaving, implied Brit show. This does not look good.
Will you
and
link it?
I'm not gonna
You
read
can't
it.
link that.
If you
I'm
bro-
telling you
I'm not
now, we
gonna
read
read
that
it.
out on like a
Don't.
charity stream.
Really?
Yeah, I think
can't
so.
remember
We were
that.
blackout drunk. It was like 2020. That would get us demonetized.
Yeah, I think this is
Get
not
all
appropriate
the-
content
It's
for the
all
show.
bad. It's all bad.
That was just an extreme distraction moment, but yeah, good tournaments. I like tournaments in the off season. That's pretty cool. Don't read the
God
fan
almighty.
fiction. Do read the tournaments.
God
I don't think that's
almighty.
how tournaments work.
Yeah. I'm gonna be excited to watch them, especially if they contain any partner teams that have new rosters in them. I'll certainly give them a good old shot. I also though I tweeted out saying other regions have a lot of tournaments going on, and for the most part I thought that was true. And then I got a bunch of different Aussie people responding to me like, "Are we not even a region
Yeah,
anymore?"
John Wyatt said, "Fuck OCE."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Play
No,
the
apparently-
clip. No, this is a live clip.
Okay.
This is a live clip of John
We
Riot.
got this drip from HQ.
Kurt's got it.
I lost
We
it.
did an interview with John Riot.
He's
at
lost it.
LCQ.
He's actually lost it in
Hold
the
on.
mail. So.
I lost it. Oh, there's your thing.
Oh,
Let
there's
me
John.
open up
Okay.
VLC.
This
John
is just
Riot
my
is actually
Twitter.
broken
I'm
Kurt's
John Riot.
computer.
Fuck OCE.
There we go.
There.
There it
Oh,
is.
wow.
So hold on. I will say, apparently some guy, I don't know what relation he has to Riot, but he had Riot in his name, tweeted saying, "Oh, there not being any OCE tournaments here was a mistake. We will be getting some OCE tournaments."
Oh, good.
This is a tweet. Can't give you any facts.
I think that's
to back
Jeffrey
this up.
Riot. That must be Jeffrey Riot, his younger brother.
I don't know who
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, he's constantly a force for good,
But
battling
I
against
also-
John Riot.
I might have dreamt this. I've been dreaming a lot.
Oh,
quite
I have
vividly
found
recently.
it.
found it?
Riot Jaker, who is the head of the APAC League, tweeted,
Wait,
they
that's
were not
actually-
listed in the article, but I can assure you there will be some OCE events during the off//season. Sorry we missed them in the announcement.
There you go.
Okay, cool. That's good then.
I mean,
John
you
Riot
know,
says
that is good.
don't fuck
Jake
OCE.
Riot. Jake Riot,
this
not
time.
John. John's a bad guy. Jake's a nice
Riot.
guy.
Yeah, Jake Riot.
I took a shuttle
My
with
bad.
Jake Riot at Champions. Super chill dude. Not like John Riot. Very different person. Don't get him confused.
Okay, good.
good to know.
Good. The Valorant story within Korea as well continues to develop. They have a bunch of different off-season tournaments happening. DRX are playing in a bunch of different show matches as well. Some that are happening outside of Korea. I think some that are happening in Japan. And during Champions, after DRX broke through their ceiling of finishing 5th, 6th, the PC Bong numbers were through the roof. And they're continuing to grow. I think it's still at 3rd place or something. Maybe we'll see if Overwatch has some kind of renaissance, which is currently down in the 7th position with the release of Overwatch 2. It is possible because Overwatch used to be super good there, but in 3rd spot at the moment is way higher than Valorant's ever
Beat
been.
sudden attack.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's now the highest played TAC FPS within Korea.
We always bring up
It's
these numbers.
insane how low the percentage is if you compare it to League of Legends. If we pull that
Oh,
back up,
yeah.
it's like 45% League of Legends,
Oh, yeah.
6% Valorant. It's still really good, but it's just absurd how big League is. And also FIFA Online 4. But I mean, it's awesome for Valorant because it's so rare to see like FPS games that high up in Korea.
A reminder as well that Overwatch, which is a game that absolutely captured the Korean audience and has like crazy good Korean players in it to the point where they pretty much are dominating the top level of competition. That at one point overtook League of Legends in the PC Bong player base. So we're talking vastly different amounts of, I guess, like support or the power within the zeitgeist, but still really impressive pull for Valorant there.
Well, especially because it was at the bottom of the pack.
Yeah,
know.
it was
But
in like 9th, 10th.
I think it also plays into the idea that next year it's going to be all centered in Seoul.
Yeah.
So you're going to have live games there as well, actually supported esports. You can have teams you can follow, and then DRX doing well as on top of it. Which
They actually they hit the CPR on Korean Valorant right as the funeral march began.
yeah.
Well, you had the East Asia LCQ where the Korean teams looked like they were about to get slaughtered. Onslayers finally like pulled through, made it to the final, and then DRX go on a run. And they've actually done the call on ambulance, but not for me kind of maneuver with Korean Valorant somehow.
It's pretty exciting though. I don't know. I think we mentioned it in prior episodes, but God, my brain is not functioning.
That's all right. We're here
You've
for
definitely mentioned that in other episodes.
Yeah,
I
we
do
mentioned
remember
that in
you
other
mentioned that
episodes,
before.
but about the concept of just Valorant, not Valorant, but esports in general in Korea. The fucking brain fog is taking over. Someone else take over my point. You know where I was going with this.
No, I
Connor.
literally don't know.
Connor, you
I
know where
know.
was going
I know
with
what point you're going. Brent's saying that Korea is such a like a it's a cultural mecca of esports. In a way, like it's such a valuable resource to have in your general esports ecosystem because like you lose so much from not having that South Korean player base involved and not having all the legacy and the infrastructure they have there.
Yeah.
So I think overall, and you can even see from I think DRX's run and like their predecessors of like Onslayers and stuff like that in terms of like those more dominant Korean teams that have like gone to more international events. It's you want to have them there. You want to see what they can do.
You're spitting.
He do be spitting.
What the fuck?
This game is broken.
Oh my god.
What he actually needed to do was fake a disconnect there at the end, and then that would have truly been
That would have been really Overwatch 2. Yeah,
that would have been truly
really
the
good.
Overwatch 2 experience. Yeah, so we have another live interview as well, if Kurt can find it, which was with John Riot. This is actually how more people ended up playing in Korea. Oh, hello. What is this?
John Riot here. I made Valorant because I want my kids to be cool when they play video games.
That wasn't the right
not
clip.
the right
What was
one.
the clip that you wanted me to play?
That was not the right interview.
John Wyatt was the one that I was.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, we wanted from Juan Wyatt. From him, he wanted him to please.
Yeah, John Riot took a trip to Korea and
This
said
one?
this.
Ah,
Hey,
this is
guys,
the one. Yeah,
it's
when John
John-
Riot went on his tour.
You're interrupting yourself, Connor.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Hey guys, it's John Wyatt this time. Will you please play my game?
And they decided to. So that's good. That's the power of the Riot marketing machine, really, isn't it?
Can't believe it. Can't believe
So-
it. I mean, it just shows if you ooify anything, you can get the player numbers there. So next up, Cat Boys in Valorant.
Cat boys.
Dude, Catboys were already in
Cat
Valorant.
Boys.
I hate to break it to you, but there's
Are
Catboys playing all over the place.
Actually,
but
Omen's
the
a
thing
cat
is,
Where have
boy.
you been
they're
finding all these
unofficial.
cat boys?
They're
Yeah.
unofficial. They're unofficial Cat Boys. They haven't
Omen's-
started the actual bioengineering program yet for Cat Boys.
No,
in
in the lore, Omen's a cat boy as Valorant.
Well, he has a
There's
skin.
a player
or something.
banner.
A
There's
player
a
banner.
player-
Is
Yeah.
Play-
Squid Boy?
The Halloween player banner.
Yeah, he's
Squid
got little
Game?
cat ears.
He's wearing cat ears.
You never seen this
And then
before?
there's the witch sage, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I can't remember that one, but I definitely remember Omen in cat ears.
No, that's not
I mean,
it.
that's fan art, but that
Yeah,
also
that's
works.
fan art.
That also works.
Sure.
Why not?
What is that symbol on his chest? Is that like
a
a
ankh.
religious icon?
I think it's Ank is how
That's
it's
it's
pronounced.
it's like an onk or an ank.
Ank.
I don't
Grants
remember how
you a
exactly they
second
pronounce it.
life.
Oh, there you go. The lore.
Okay. Incredible law.
This is supposed to be Sphinx Omen. Is this like Sphinx Omen or
Yeah.
something? Is this what I'm looking at?
There's a pretty sweet skin. If listen, when are they bringing out skins?
They said they never would.
They should.
Also, you can't
They should
see
go back
your,
on their word. They should
can't
release
see your
personal
player
skins.
character in any way.
I'm
Why are they
actually,
adding
I'm gonna do.
third-person
I'm breaking
emotes?
all the rules of this episode. I'm turning up. My brain's not operating, but
Yeah.
I'm asking a question to the chat already.
Go on then.
I want people to type in the chat. No, don't pull up the chat.
No, I'm looking. I want
to see
people can
how many
use
people
their
how many
stuff.
people care about the skins or not. If they introduced agent skins in particular, would people care about that?
What do you mean? How many people care about? People literally spend their rent money on the gun.
No.
skins. Do you think people aren't going to be spending their?
Listen. But like people would be like, oh, my competitive integrity.
Half the people would care because CS has done it, and it's impossible to see people with certain skins, and they fucked it up horrendously.
But this
and
game
half
doesn't
the
have the
people
same
would care
problem.
because they'd be desperate to get those skins.
Yeah, but this game you have out the outlines like in red called purple.
Well,
So
also
it's not as big of an issue.
they'd be much more difficult to see. I mean, that was the whole reason that they said they weren't doing skins, is because they prioritized being able to see things very clearly.
Anyway, I'm curious. I want to hear the people.
Well, we can hear from the people
think
if they use super chats or
if
whatever.
they give us money,
or just put it in the comments. Or put it in the comment
You
section
really
and
do
read those.
bring a distinctive flair to help us keep the episode going. I say
do you
every
mean?
time you show up. I mean, your skills amaze me.
I've just been derailing the episode since I got here.
Well, let's move on then. Let's stop the derailing. One of the other big topics of conversation this week, before we get into the Rostermania stuff, was the deliberate use of the Viper bug in EMEA game changers that was absurdly blatant. And even the casters who were commentating the game, was it Tom and Mitch or something?
It was Mitch and Tom, yeah.
Yeah, Mitch and Tom are casting, and they're like, "Oh, they're using the bug again, guys." Guys, they've just done it again. They've just blatantly and obviously used the bug again. If you're unaware, there's a bug in the game right now where if you use your Viper Molly on top of the opponents, it doesn't do any damage. So
it does less damage. It overrides it and does like the
So
self-damage.
It does the
Right.
damage that it would be if you are like a teammate just hitting
Okay.
it. It basically
Yeah.
deletes the other one and only keeps the team Molly there.
Right. And so, can you play this with audio? Is that possible, Kurt? Because it's just so funny hearing Tom and Mitch be like, "I don't know what to do. This is just blatant cheating." No, but that's how it came across. It's very funny. I don't know what I would do in that
They got
situation.
warned for it apparently.
Who?
And just did it again. The team.
Oh yeah.
They got warned. They got warned for it the first time, and then they just did it again.
So we just need a tough on crime riot. That's what the problem there is.
All right, let's
we don't
listen
have
to
a
this.
tough on crime.
Let's listen to this.
Ready to set up in the after plant. You got full belts of utility, including snake bikes and shot darts and operator gone. Okay, Ness. Fair play.
Yep, there it is again.
And yeah, they've done it again. They've used it twice, 2 rounds in a row to just try and remove the damage. Samsy will at least be able to get rid of one, but I don't think it's going to take enough time off of the clock. Diffusal coming through from Guild. Some cheeky snake bite shenanigans. 2 rounds in a row. And what?
Some cheating. Snake shenanigans.
Yeah, he had to really
Some
restrain
cheeky
himself.
cheating going on there. Oh god.
That's, I mean, what are you supposed to do when it's that blatant? You know, you can't really like. I mean, you feel for them in that situation because you can't just be like, "These guys are cheating." You can't just like literally say it, but you got to be like, you know.
I know.
That's cheeky.
It was bizarre, honestly, absolutely bizarre. But also, I think people took issue with the. So it was dealt with by undoing both of those rounds, giving them losses, and then going forwards with the match. They still won that game, right? Even though they had
they
both
did.
of those losses
They
counted
did.
against them.
They did.
Yeah.
They won the game, and then afterwards, you know, people were talking about how because of this, the usage of the bug and everything like that, they completely ruined their momentum for the team for Ascend during this, and like it just because they had to like go back, redo, pause, you know, like deliberations, everything, like everything combined, like it's essentially just what happened. It's like the Vivo Key situation. Also, shockingly enough, with Ascend. I don't know how Ascend keeps on getting into they're the ones always stuck in this shit somehow. I don't know.
They're always on the wrong
I think it's
side
the
of it.
cosmic. I think it's the cosmic gambling karma potentially. I'm not. I think it's somewhere related to that. But like either way, like I don't think that this is like. I think it's just unfortunate that because there is a very real argument to be made about how important momentum is, and this fucked everything up for them. Like it just completely ruined the momentum for them.
People are taking issue with the inconsistency in rulings, right? Which is where this comes.
Sure.
This, again, bringing up the turret shit, and then now this as well. What did they ended up giving them? They ended up giving them 2 rounds.
2 rounds. They gave them the 2 rounds in which they used the bug, which for blatant, you were told this is a bug and you used it anyway, and you won 2 rounds off the back of it. There's an argument to be made that you should just get disqualified for that, for obvious exploit usage. And also Amy here saying that they used the bug 3 times. I must admit, I haven't looked into this situation as detailedly as I did look into the Champions one. I don't really know what the what the fairest outcome should be. But yeah, they say here that they won an eco round as well and fucked up the momentum and the economy. which is bonkers, really, isn't it?
I mean, this is different as well to the turret situation because it was in the rule book that it was a bug.
Yeah.
That it wasn't supposed to be used. Was used.
They were warned
They
and
were
continued
warned
to
and
use
then
it anyway.
continued to use it, which in my mind, I don't know. What is the fair punishment there? Probably DQ of the map.
Yeah, I mean,
I
very
feel
possibly.
like bugs like this, where you are blatantly told this is wrong, this is in the bug list, you cannot do this, where it's something blatant, like with the turret bug situation, that was one that was clearly like not any of the team's fault. This is one where it is exactly blatant what you are doing. You are doing this to cheat the system and do something that's not intended in the game. I think the only really fair outcome is probably giving them just a full-on map loss and just getting DQ'd for it out of a map. And if it hadn't been the decider map, it would have just been a map down. But I don't know. At the same time, it's just such a weird situation because now Guild has gone on, and not only did they qualify for the international event and are going to be at Berlin, they also won this whole tournament off of this and off of that momentum. So it's like kind of rewinding into the what ifs. If they had been DQ'd or if there hadn't been a pause and it had just been allowed to play out, would that momentum have built for Ascend? I haven't watched the game in full, so I don't really know, but it's such a strange situation. And I think so different than I think Connor's right in that it is like very much exactly the same situation as what happened with Vivo Key, but with almost bigger implications now because they did go on to win the tournament.
Yeah, I think whenever you're applying a rule like this as well, if your ruling is that you undo the rounds, or not undo, because undo implies you would replay them, but you flip the round outcome so that they are guaranteed losses every time if you are using an exploit like this, that ruling doesn't take into account the momentum of the economy, right? Yeah. It's very possible that by losing both of those rounds, if you'd lost them actually, you would have had a knock-on third round that you would have also lost because you would have been on an eco, something like that. So there have to be implications of that kind of thing taken also into account, which is going to be really difficult for the admins to do, which means it's easier to make blanket rulings which are like deliberate multiple bug abuses equals map DQ, something along those lines. Also, you got to remember that again, if they hadn't seen where the snakebite went, this might not have even been caught. So there is a world in which you're able to very obviously bug abuse, but because the cameras are in a different position, it might not get caught in these kind of matches. So it's not the case of like you're always going to get caught when you bug abuse this obviously. So you need to make the punishments also account for the fact that they could have used it in further situations that just didn't happen to be on camera. Yeah. So
yeah, they could have made it through the tournament using this whole bug. Like, right? They could have won other rounds with this bug previously.
Well, that's what Amy said, that they
that's what
did
you were,
win a third.
yeah, exactly. Well, no, but I'm talking about like literally getting to this point too, like winning their other matches, like getting up through to this point in the tournament, right? Like who knows how many times previously they've used this bug that hasn't been caught, right?
And remember, with tournaments like this, where there's like a bazillion teams in it, there will be admins in the lobby, but a lot of the times those admins have like multiple PCs and are watching like multiple games at once. So they can only be looking at one POV at one time. And because Valorant doesn't have a replay client yet, another reason that we need a replay client, you can't know if something happened if you missed it at the moment. So it just really opens up the door for just cheating that can't be caught.
Mm-hmm.
Deliberate cheating 100% should receive especially because they've said that like everyone was aware of it. Deliberate and being caught and doing it multiple times is like clearly a different level of violation than you've done it once on accident or even on purpose once. But like if you keep on doing it and you know you're not supposed to do it, I feel like that's just inherently anti-competitive. You know you're doing something wrong that you're not supposed to be doing to gain an advantage.
Yeah.
So
consistency with rulings.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
The rulings have been extremely poor, just in general.
I think a big part of that though as well is that the admins, I'm pretty sure, are hired by the TO, or
I think it's Freaks for You, not
or the production company themselves, which is probably definitely playing into the inconsistency in rulings across the board.
Sure,
because there's no. I imagine they have to go to Riot about some of this stuff. They have probably people that they speak to, but the people who are making the on-the-fly decisions is probably changing with almost every single region and tournament. So.
We can do a little check-in here of Game Changers as well, just in terms of which teams are... Because the Game Changers is going to culminate this upcoming big international tournament is coming up, which is like Champions for Game Changers, where the different regions are going to be playing against each other as well. So EMEA, you've got your representative already locked in. Brazil is not yet done, I don't believe. Oh, Team Liquid just won. Right. Okay. Yeah, Team Liquid were the odds-on favorites to take this. So the odds-on favorites, as I understand it, were Cloud9 White, Team Liquid from Brazil, and actually the G2 team is the team that I had heard the most about from Game Changers in EMEA.
And they have qualified.
And okay, so they're already through. And
On the Liquipedia page, these are the only teams that have officially qualified, but I'm pretty sure the Team Liquid Brazil qualified.
Yeah, if that just happened, they wouldn't have updated it this quickly.
Yeah. So there's going to be a big tournament happening there as well, which should be pretty sick, actually.
It's at the start of November, isn't it?
Yeah, when's the date for this, Kurt?
It's November. It's November. Early November, because I know
November
this
15th.
because it corresponds directly with Seth's wedding in Korea. So it's because Albert wanted to go, and then potentially with North America happening soon, if our team wins out, if Misfits Black wins out, they can go to champs. So like it just depends on like what happens.
Yeah.
So
Move the wedding to Berlin.
yeah,
We'll just do a co-stream from the wedding.
do that.
That sounds like a good idea, right?
I mean,
but yeah,
Seth would love
that
that.
should be a pretty sick tournament, especially, of course, heading into next year as well. The Game Changers players, if there are any really good Game Changers players, they're not region locked. Unlike the other players, if you actually are like in Game Changers, you can go to whatever other team you like. You're not bound by the
Import rules.
Yeah, which could be pretty
sweet, actually.
Could be pretty good. I mean, I don't know whether anyone will decide to take a chance. I feel like a team like EG, for example, would be the #1 place that might take a chance because that's kind of what they've built their brand on. But it'd be interesting to see whether the scouts believe that any of those players are up to that level and show the promise to be moved up into one of those teams. It'd be interesting. Okay.
Before we move on, we could talk about NA Game Changers is happening in a few days. I think tomorrow it starts. So if you want to check that out,
Yes.
it is starting tomorrow.
The open quals, right, on October 6th, and then the
And it's pretty
main
stacked.
event.
I think there's like 12 groups of 4 teams. So what is math? That's like 64? 4 times.
12
48
times 4 is
teams.
64. Is that what you just
no,
said?
No, I didn't say that. I said it's 48.
Okay,
which
good.
is the correct answer, 'cause I'm really
Good.
at math.
Good.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, like Game Changers forever has been like Cloud9 and Shopify competing to like see who's going to make it. I think Cloud9 is a shoo-in. They just got a new player in Bob who used to play for the Sonics before the last event that they won. But in the last event as well, Shopify actually took a series off of them and knocked them into the lower bracket, and they had to make like a crazy lower bracket run to be able to qualify. But those 2 teams are probably looking like the favorites. Shopify just picked up Benita, who was with CLG for a long time and was a pretty clouded player back in CS and in the early days of Valorant as well. She's been around for ages. You have EG, who was the former Dignitas team that got picked up by that org, and TSM as well that just made some roster changes. So there's a lot of interesting teams, and it should be super exciting because there's 2 NA slots, and I think it's almost a shoo-in for Cloud9 to be like the circuit point based team because they've won every event. But I think there might be a mathematical way where if like Cloud9 somehow bomb out and Shopify win this last one, they could be the points team instead, and then maybe we could get a second one. But it's going to be a pretty interesting tournament.
And if the most recent guild situation teaches you anything, drama will abound. So
There's always drama. Game Changers has so much drama.
Oh,
It's
there's
awesome.
so much drama. It's amazing. There's Game Changers is the best. It's honestly one of the greatest drama scenes, and I love it as a messy bitch myself. I'm a big fan.
Also, one of the teams got a special message from Johnny Sins.
This was so
If any
funny.
of you guys want to watch this real quick.
yeah, let's
Sure.
Please.
What's up, tactical throwers? It's your favorite teacher, lawyer, astronaut, doctor, plumber, and CEO, Johnny Sins here. Just wishing you the best of luck in Game Changers. I'll be keeping the other team's moms busy, and the rest is up to you now.
So,
Beautiful.
shout out to
Beautiful.
Tactical Throwers. And Johnny Sins.
Absolutely beautiful. Dude, cameo shit for roster is so funny. I don't know if you guys remember the one from Sugar Free in Overwatch where they hired the 2 models to be like, Linny is the hottest new free agent on the market.
Yeah, I do remember
it's so funny.
Oh god.
Good trend. Good trend.
Wow. All right, let's talk Loud. Loud are imploding by the look of it. Happening crazy shit happening in Brazil right now. They released their head coach. People tweeting crazy shit. The community all speculating that they've removed Loud from their Twitter handles and stuff, despite the fact apparently they didn't do that recently. Just no one realized they did it earlier. But journalists within the Brazilian scene have also been reporting that it's quite likely the team falls to pieces too. Let's talk the head coach first of all, because Bazooka or Bazooka was an incredibly integral part of taking Loud all the way through to winning champions and basically starting with a super team idea and making them actually function this year. And he's been maybe let go is the wrong wording here because we don't really know what's happening, but he's an unrestricted free agent. So that implies that Loud are not looking to rehire him, but maybe that's him just testing the open market. But he's had a statement here in English that he also repeats in Portuguese too, where he's just talking about how he's very proud of what he's doing and he's looking for future opportunities as well. So a big free agent coach that other teams could pick up. But more worrying than that, there's kind of rustlings and implications that it might be the entire team that's going elsewhere.
I think this would be pretty sad. I think Sassy did a tell-all as well on his stream.
It was in Portuguese though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but there was translated posts on Reddit.
Oh, I didn't see those.
The Valorant competitive, and it was. I think the general gist of it, from what I'm remembering, was that the team wants to stay together as much as they possibly can, but when they're getting all these crazy offers and negotiations, maybe with Loud, I think the implication was as well that the negotiations with Loud as well weren't going as well. Here we go. Yeah, so the team wants to stay together. It's very stressful. They're having 3 to 4 meetings every day because players need to renew their contracts. Players are approached by other teams.
Right.
Worst case scenario, the team disbands. He wants full support, obviously, but that's not their wish. So it seems to me like probably the players, are probably negotiating with Loud because they just won fucking champs.
Yeah.
So they're probably trying to get a bit more money out of it. They want to stay together, but also they're also hot commodities because they've just won champs. So the players are probably going to be getting a lot of offers as well.
I know we've talked about this before, but I just want to explain with an example here of Loud, of why it's so difficult for top rosters to stick together. Let's use Loud as an example, right? Let's say they have, I'm just going to use a budget of $1 million, right? They have $1 million to spend on salary for next year. So that's their budget that they can go with. So each player would be paid, so their 5 players would be paid 200K over the course of the year. I'm not saying these are reasonable numbers, but we're just using round numbers here. If somebody else comes over to each of the individual players, maybe those teams also have a budget of $1 million, but they're happy to pay 4 of their players only 100K.
Yeah.
And they're willing to spend huge amounts of money. Another, I mean, what even would that be? 600K. Maybe that doesn't quite work, but
yeah.
They're ready to spend 600K on Sassy. And Loud now is like, oh, bruh, I mean, maybe we can stretch the budget a little bit for Sassy, but then they get another team that wants Aspas and is willing to spend 400K on Aspas. And now they have to try and match all of these offers that are going up and up and up for the entire squad. Whereas for the teams that are trying to get them, they only have one player that they're really spending the cash on. But the combined kind of pressures from the outside end up meaning that these teams like Loud or if OpTic had got in, that kind of thing, are under immense economic stress to try and keep these super teams that they've already formed together. So it's not that every other team would be spending more as a total, but because you have all the good players, you end up having to spend a shit ton just to fend off the other offers from elsewhere.
It also depends on what their contract status was before that too, technically, because
Sure.
they
Don't
have
they
been
all
like
get written off as we head into partnerships?
No.
Because didn't like Fnatic and them sign like long partner like contracts like before partnership was even confirmed?
They would have to make sure that the contracts align with what is permissible under the current contract system, but they wouldn't have to. They don't have to release everybody as an unrestricted free agent and re-sign them again. They can.
Yeah.
It's just about negotiating from whatever their basis was into the new system.
So this is just a hubris of like, I mean, not hubris per se, because no one can ever be like, oh yeah, this roster we're probably spending a lot of money on is 100% going to win champs, and we're going to 100% use them all coming into the following year. So like, but it's just the gamble you take is like, are you going to sign long contracts with players, or are you going to potentially give them like a 1-year contract and then they're free to get other offers, and you probably can't keep them if they do really well.
Yeah.
So.
And to be clear, like during the renegotiation process to make sure that their contracts fall under the current, like a permissible system, they could at that point say, well, no, I'm not happy with this. I want to look elsewhere, but they might still have an enormous buyout because if they're still under that contract that exists, for another 2 years, I assume that whatever like buyout clause was in there would still matter heading heading towards another team.
Bro, it's my brain while Josh talks about numbers. Holy, I mean, I'm just like, what?
What even? I mean, this is just
Simple graphics.
this is an
isn't this just
extraordinarily simple
super
graph.
simple quadratic equations or something.
But there's
yeah.
like
not a
four
quadratic
white-
equation.
They're
What are
not
quadratic
quadratic. They're
equations?
not quadratic equations. No,
That's
they're
the
not.
Oh, the
kind of thing,
parabolas. and
Yeah,
stuff.
parabolas.
Yes.
What is
parabolas.
this?
God damn, man.
This is just
I mean,
algebra.
This is just
Right,
linear
equals
algebra.
This is just linear algebra.
this. I mean, thank God for
Wait,
esports
let
because
him solve it.
because I mean, I just can't
I
believe
used to
that
be
we're
really
having-
good at maths.
Okay.
Of
Wait,
us.
how is X plus Y both 2 and 4?
No. It's not. It's
They're
two
two
separate.
different, two
It's
separate
two
lines.
separate lines on the
separate
graph.
line
here.
graphs.
It's
Yeah.
just showing that they intersect at the points 2 and 4
Yeah.
on the
That
y-axis.
makes a lot of sense, actually.
Dude, this teacher's pretty sweet. That guy's. Where'd you find that video, Kurt?
The internet.
Okay. I wanted to brush up on my mathematical knowledge. You never know when it will come in handy.
Does your gut feeling say Loud stick together? Do you think they're going to work it out?
I don't think so.
No.
Everything that I've seen prior is that it seems like the org probably isn't willing to spend. The players are already. Bazooka's already, did he say he was restricted or he's
Unrestricted free agent.
Unrestricted.
It feels
Yeah.
like it's already set in motion. You can't stop it at this point. It's,
Maybe.
in some way or form, the whole of this roster will not stay together.
They
you
also-
might see some core of the roster stay together, but
I believe the day that Bazooka tweeted that he was an unrestricted free agent, Owner tweeted a little like contract and 10
Right.
tweet. I don't know whether the two are related. Other people would know
Now,
much
I
more
actually
than
have
me.
a question.
How did they
related...
get him? Did they like hold him down on a table to finally vaccinate him so he can get
Yeah,
into Brazil?
exactly.
Well, I guess
Like-
no, he only has to get into America so he can be the coach now. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think
Wait,
whenever
but what
I
if they
get
ever
back
have-
into
but
America,
the first tournament is in Brazil, so he couldn't.
Wait,
He couldn't go
fuck.
to the first tournament.
You're
well,
right.
also
Literally could
whenever
not
I
go
try
for
to
the
go
first
to
tournament.
America, they always make sure that I'm vaccinated too.
Oh, yeah,
There's a
if you're-
form that
it's
you have
only
to
if
fill
you're
out
a
that says
citizen.
I
you
haven't
need it.
filled out that form.
I don't know.
But I don't think. But I don't think we have a strict requirement, do we? I can't remember.
I think
think
you
we
have to be
do.
vaccinated if you're
We.
not a
not
citizen.
me.
If you're not, if you're an alien.
Okay, but the point
entry.
being, either way, the point being is that he could not reside in Brazil or go to tournaments in Brazil. If
He's
going
going to coach them from across the border. He's going to be on the borderline, and they're going to set up their base exactly on the border, and he's just going to shout with a megaphone like, "You guys need to flank A more." Like that kind of coaching
I
from
did
across the border.
almost get denied being in the US. I'm vaccinated, but I didn't bring my vaccination card when I was trying to get back in recently. And they asked
And you know
me,
why that is?
they
'Cause you're
said,
not a
"Can you-
resident, Bryn."
Do you have your? Yeah, they said, "Do you have your vaccination card?" And I was like, "Oh fuck!" And I'm like looking around, I'm like looking for my wallet. I'm like, normally I keep it in my wallet. It's not there. Must have lost it somewhere. And then I'm stood there for 15 minutes holding up a queue of people, and eventually the lady's like, "That's fine. Just get on."
Yeah,
So-
so they did check. They just didn't give enough of a shit.
No, they didn't care enough.
If Loud's players were going elsewhere, where would you like to see them end? Let's say Loud are scattered to the winds. Are there any obvious places? We don't have to go through each player, but like, is there something that just springs to mind as this player should go in this direction, or this player would be such a big acquisition here?
Don't care where the players really go as much, but I want Sassy and Sadak to stay together. Personally, I'd like that the core of those two players to stick together because they when I think of like the core of this team and the core of the success of this team, I think it's from those two guys, and you can surround them with young talent that can be molded. But yeah, I mean as well, I'm not to say that the talent like Aspas, Pancada, unless bad players and they shouldn't be sticking together because they're not. Here's the thing. Sentinel players, the guys that kind of fill the role that Les does, where you're playing like the Viper Sentinel role, are actually a really hot commodity, I think, coming into the partnerships this next year.
There aren't that many of them.
They're an extinct species because of fucking Chamber. I'm not even kidding. Like, all the Chamber players has meant that all the Sentinel players, the guys who used to play, Killjoy, Cypher, whatever else, have just kind of like faded into irrelevancy, and people don't have a lot of recent information to scout good players on those roles.
Yeah.
Unless you're on a team that has been working around it in some way or form, like, Sugetsu plays it or whatever else. But yeah, it's players like Les are pretty rare.
Sugetsu, Nats, Les.
Yeah.
And I mean, even DRX started putting RB on that role.
That's what I
which
mean.
is-
Like,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
really rare role.
yeah.
I
I don't
think
think you could make a better I say Brazilian, even though Sadak's from Argentina, but I don't think you could make a better Brazilian super team than this. I think there's other players that are hanging around, like somebody like Heat, which might be a great add to the team, but I really don't think that you could create a better super team right now, even with an unlimited budget, than Loud. You could maybe make some like 1-for-1 swaps that might be similar, but I don't think these guys are going to end up on better teams. It's not going to be an upgrade.
I mean, Pancada might be putting in, honestly, with his performance coming out of champs, might be the best controller player in the world at the moment.
Yeah, but I think, you know, that's always gone up and down between like Marv.
There are also more
Pancada.
like controller players that you could potentially grab than there are like certain other roles on this team. You know?
I think the biggest asset for me, if I'm like pulling one person from this team and I'm an org, particularly if I'm someone like MIBR that has a roster right now, but that isn't particularly good, that I'm like likely going to want to like wipe out ahead of franchising, I would probably just grab Bazooka and have him build something. Even if it's not a Brazilian super team, I know he speaks English as well. So
Yeah,
it would be
does.
very possible to build a team around him and do a similar approach to what a team like Sentinels is doing right now, where you sign the coach first, you build it top down.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
you try and assemble your own team. He's proven that he can do it. He built Loud from the ground up, and it's now the team that just won champions.
Sadak and Sassy both speak English easily well enough to play on a mixed language
I mean, you could
team
even
as well.
keep that core three together of like the leadership core, like
Yeah.
Sadak, Sassy, and Bazooka, and just get like three
God,
young
what a
players to
sick
mold
team.
with them and just make like Loud 2.0 with the same leadership core, but different young players. You could even mix in players from North America, import people from EU. It just has to be an org that's willing to kind of trust in that leadership, because
And pay a lot of money.
speak English and pay a fuck ton of money, but
Yeah.
presumably orgs would be willing to.
But I mean, which orgs? If we're going to speculate about that as well, right? This is kind of the final piece of the puzzle. If Loud was going to get pulled to pieces, who's fielding these kind of offers? MIBR, Furia?
MIBR.
I got it. I have
MIBR
it. I have
and
it. I have it right off the top of my head. One team that needs, there's two obvious teams in North America. One team that needs fans but has money, EG. Secondly, one team that has fans and Zoms and just wants to make funny moments, get Sentinels. Put Sentinels and Zoms with them. Those are the
Funny
two
moments.
obvious answers.
Bro, I mean,
What a great idea.
But I mean, the thing is, I actually don't know if anyone in Brazil, like on the non-troll aspect, I don't know if Loud can't keep this team together. I don't know any org in Brazil that has the capital to do that other than Loud right now. And this is not a joke. This is just from like what I understand from like inside the scene and talking to people that used to work with like members of like Furia, stuff like that. Like Loud is literally like the clout org. They have the money. Like, and if they cannot keep this roster together, there's no one in Brazil that can do it. Like, it just can't be done. So,
Doesn't bode particularly well for Brazilian orgs moving forwards if they can't keep a very good roster together, because the Brazilian scene is going to actually demand super teams to be competitive at the top level, right? And if you don't have if you can't hold on to the talent because it just keeps getting poached elsewhere, then they're going to find it difficult to
but that's an
compete.
issue of the franchising system, I think, in that not like an issue is in like, it's more so like they don't know what their performance is going to be, right? It's like, so why would they have signed like 2-year plus contracts with them coming in? And on top of that, like as you get into the system now, you'll be more prepared for like, how are we going to structure our contracts and negotiations to make sure we can keep players, etc. Like I don't know if Loud themselves expected like not just only to win champs. So I'm sure they wanted to win champs and had that in mind when they built the roster, but the level of money that potentially was going to be thrown at the players. Like it's hard to really anticipate like without like really having a lot of foresight about like what that sort of level of pressure was going to be heading into the franchise system.
It also sucks for them that they have two players that do speak English and a coach that speaks English, because otherwise, if all of your players only speak Portuguese, you're only competing with Furia and MIBR potentially.
they can go to.
Yeah. Let's talk about the quote-unquote super team being formed in the North American region, which is Cloud9. Now, I've seen a lot of people even doubting this term being used, and I was using the term last week because George Geddes used the term when he was talking about Ye being signed to the squad and playing alongside Leaf. Apparently, this team is popping off in scrims as well, although I've always heard that about even the old Cloud9 rosters, that they dominated scrims and then just didn't do it in matches. This Cloud9 team that is being formed, are they a super team? Are they unbeatable? Are they going to be one of the top teams in the Americas League overall? What's your read on the situation? They got Ye, Leaf, Zeppa, Zelsis, Vanity is their 5 at the moment. Where do you think that team ends up being placed, roughly?
Very
Top 5
good.
North America.
Very
Top
good.
5 North America for sure. I mean, it's hard to really
Top 5 North
say
America
before we
for
see
sure.
the rest.
There's
Yeah.
5 North
5
American
North
teams in the Americas
Yeah.
League.
That's why it's for
Yes,
sure.
Yeah. That's why it's for sure top 5 North America. But it's for sure top. I mean, it's a guaranteed thing. It's hard to say also until we see the rest of the rosters, right? But like with that core, if you have like Yay, Leaf, and Vanity, I think it's hard to say they're not going to be finishing like within a top, like an upper half. They should be based off, I imagine, the budget being spent and the talent of the roster. If you're not finishing within the upper half, like top 3, 4 of like the Americas region, if you're not like aiming for that place, then it's kind of a failed project.
Oh, definitely.
Because imagine the money that has been spent to acquire Yay alone.
I mean, it's
You
so
know?
smart though. Sell the best player in the world, get the new best player in the world with the money you sold tens with. It's just economic. It's good decision making. Cloud9 just had forethought. We sell tens, he becomes washed. We get the new best player in the world, sign him to our team, make super team, win Valorant.
Is it a super team?
No, I
Yes.
don't think so. But it should be punching. It should be punching for the top spots in the Americas League. At least top 3, I would say. This team as it currently stands, because I think they've got the talent. They've I think there's important qualities that you need if you're going to be a top team in any sort of league. Good IGL is one of them, which I think Vanity he fits the bill there. Doesn't exactly put up the highest numbers, but he's a good IGL. Has
Sure.
good ideas, good calling. You have a star player that can actually turn unwinnable rounds to winnable rounds in the form of Yay. That's just, you don't need that necessarily. You can make a team that could win stuff, I think, that's just more than the sum of its parts, but it definitely helps to have a player like Yay. So listen, no complaints there. And honestly, those are 2 qualities that I think those are the only 2 qualities
I
that
can
you
think
really
of one
need to
more
make top 3.
that you all are missing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, MC. Good
Oh,
coach.
if they get MCE,
Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah, that's
I think it's over. I mean, MCE as well. That's the third element as well that I wasn't really sure about it. But if they get good coaching staff as well on top of that, then you've got the support structure around a very good set of talent.
Yeah. The MCE is a bit of a game changer here, but I wouldn't necessarily call this a super team so much as just a really good team within the Americas system.
Yeah.
Because I think that some of their players still have quite a lot to prove, actually. You know, Leaf and Zeppa didn't have the greatest years compared to expectations coming in at the off. I think Zelsis is definitely a player that's been performing extremely well. But I don't think most people would have him as the best flex player, for example, within the region, even though he's, I think, up there. And also, Yay played on a system where his entry player was willing to sacrifice everything to make space for him to pop off. Whereas I think Leaf is going to take more resources than Victor did. Leaf is probably going to get more done than Victor ever did. But assuming that that's the dynamic with Victor entering and Yay being the chamber player, that Leaf is going to be given more resources compared to
I didn't really think about
compared
that,
to
but yeah.
Victor, and that
I
might
feel
end up
like
taking
that
away from
too-
Yay a little.
I think that too as a duo would be almost more like what FaZe had when they had Baby Bay and Dicey, in that they had like a really like resource intensive like dive player that had a lot like put into finding them success, and then having to have a chamber that's a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more willing to take those big risks, which Yay has been at times, but he tends to be a lot more of like a calculated guy, a little slower than someone like Dicey if you're making that 1-for-1 comparison. I think kind of the delineation of initiator utility in the team will be the most interesting part. But I have a lot of faith with Zelsis and Zeppa as that kind of supportive line. I think even though Zeppa maybe struggled a little bit in LCQ and in this year, I think with Zelsis, the two of them together, I have a lot of faith, particularly with this leadership core. When you put in two guys that have worked together for so long in Vanity and MCE. MCE was Vanity's coach back when they were like one of the like best kind of up and coming like North American Counter-Strike teams, and then they got separated when they come to Valorant. So it's kind of a cool story to see them meshing back together, and that experience speaks to a lot because the core of this team will still have been together for a while and will have worked together for a while. And Zelsis has already proved that he's good at being kind of put into new systems. I think the biggest question is what you're saying, Josh, and how does Yay fit in? How much can he get done in a bit of a different setup than what he had with OpTic?
Yeah, I saw some people saying he's going to be washed. I mean, that is just not true at all. There's just no chance of it. And also, yeah, Kurt's bringing up a good point here that it's reuniting MCE with Vanity. They two were normally playing together, and it's that core of the Chaos team with Vanity, Zeppa, and Leaf back with their coach, MCE. And they spoke extremely highly of MCE in the past. And I think it seems like Vanity's kind of been running the ship, but that isn't as far as I understand it, how MCE runs his teams either. So it's a pretty nice IGL coach duo where it allows there's not going to be a power struggle internally, you know? If you just randomly slapped any other coach onto Cloud9, I feel like there might be a bit of a weird dynamic there where the coach is trying to run the team, but then it's actually Vanity's team, so there's a bit of tension, perhaps. Whereas this should be absolutely tension-free because they've already worked with each other before and they liked the system that they created. So here's the thing. I think this team might end up being the benchmark team when we rate other rosters. Because if Louder fall into pieces and OpTic are no longer together again, is Cloud9 the team by which we kind of measure the others? Like, are they going to look better than Cloud9, worse than Cloud9? Is that going to end up being like the NRG team, maybe? This is kind of the team that we know the most about heading into next year.
Yeah, it makes sense that they'd be the benchmark. That's where the bar's been set.
Yeah.
But also, how much higher can it get? I don't really know. I mean, because
the more you split apart the best players, the less easy it is to build a super team, actually.
Yeah, I know, but also just the more uncertain the whole season gets.
Sure.
Because, listen, I've seen super teams get built in the past, quote-unquote super teams, and they have failed in terms of their goal of finishing at a top spot.
Yeah.
So it's not out of reality, you know?
Yeah. Well, okay, from one of the teams that's trying to put together a crazy super team to another team that doesn't appear to be doing anything so far in the offseason whatsoever. Let's talk EG, because controversial title coming up. Is EG going to be the worst team in the Americas League? But in an actual sense, what are they doing in the offseason? Like, what are they doing?
Have there been no reports about them at all? I don't think I've seen any.
There's been like a report that there was movement.
I think there's movement.
There's movement was literally, I think, the quote.
Movement. What are we, geologists? We're looking at the plates.
I'm not seeing enough movement.
I mean, that's
movement.
I don't know. I mean, also that could be a staple of just EG maybe has better, you know, they're not leaking as much. But also the thing is about leaks is that, oh my God, the lights turned off. I gotta wait. Let me turn off my lights. I'll turn it back off.
Oh.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, there's motion sensors in the room.
I see.
I didn't get up. Yeah, that's the problem there. So, much like EG, my room is off. It's just not. They just turned off the lights. But
in the dark.
I guess like realistically, it doesn't matter because players leak everything anyways. No matter what you want to try to do, players are gonna leak everything. So it's like impossible to hold it. So if there's still no news coming out of it, either they've somehow found the players that have the tightest lips ever in esports, like they'll not leak a single secret, or nothing's fucking happening.
Okay, so here's a mega mind way that you could potentially backfire really heavily, but also you could build maybe a good team.
Okay.
If the big gold rush ends on October 15th when you need to build your roster, EG might be just settling with what they've got for now, which is theoretically low contract costs for the players that they've got for the team that they've got currently.
Yeah.
And then once that's over, you're essentially left with presumably still some very good players that are left that haven't been picked up by partnership teams.
Yeah.
And you still have that period of time from October 15th until February where you can pick up players and pick and choose and, you know, mix and match and find solid upgrades for your current roster. So what if that's the direction they're going in? I think that
the players there you're implying would be much cheaper as well because they have missed out on the first wave.
Yes.
Because you're assuming also they haven't been signed by challengers teams.
Say again?
What if they got signed by challengers teams and got locked under contract to challengers teams?
But they might, but I think that right now there's a lot of orgs that are still reevaluating whether or not they want to be involved in challenges. So it's like a bit of a wild west at the moment, but the big heavy hitters who are putting the most money up have got to be the partnership teams across the board, just as a generality. And they're going to be putting up the most money from now until October 15th. So what if EG's strategy is to wait it out, wait until you essentially get the second wave of signings, and a bunch of players are still kind of hungry for that opportunity to compete in partnership, and you can pick up players without the competition against the top orgs.
I mean, you guarantee that you miss out on the best players.
Yes, you guarantee you miss out on the best players. That's the downside to this. And also, there's a risk involved because there's no guarantee that you'll even get those players if you do wait.
Yeah, because TSM's already said that they're going to be participating in challengers. So there's at least one strong North American team that has money. They'll be in challengers. That's willing to pay. Like
Yeah.
there are teams that have been spurned and they're still willing to drop the cash and be like, okay, we're gonna have. So like, I don't think if that is their strategy, if that truly is their strategy, then to me that's the most Borpa business partnership strategy yet, because it's like, especially for your opening year, like of the first year of partnerships, and like EG does not have a big rep. Obviously, you should never be making like huge financial decisions entirely based off like what Reddit thinks. That's like super fucking dumb. But at the same time, if you're not willing to like, if you're not willing to put some sort of other effort to be like, well, surely there will be some people left over we can get. It's a risky strat because you guarantee you lose the best players, like Josh said, and also you don't know what the contract status is going to be for other good players, like for challenger teams, and also other good players that might have been picked up by North American teams would have gone to like outside region teams. Like it's just, and then also you still have to like, well, you have to still make the roster, right? Like not only do you have to like get the players, but there's an issue of like trialing them, like seeing what your system's going to be like a little bit when you do tryouts, like. And if you just remove a bunch of your options.
It heavily requires you to have really good scouting, I think, and a good idea of what you want to be building outside of it. You just need to be incredibly confident in your scouting to build that, and probably player development as well. I'm just trying to like think of what the alternative could be other than EG just kind of resting on what they've got.
Well, if they did rest on what they've got, let's bring up the roster for EG. What EG did have a couple of notable wins, and they performed a lot better than people were expecting. They made it into the challenger system multiple times. Boostio was performing very well whilst IGLing. Jorgamo was playing pretty nutty actually, and had a couple of life games that got them over the line against even OpTic. Right, they beat OpTic by beating them on Bind and Breeze. I want to say it was. Maybe it wasn't Breeze.
Yeah, it was
actually.
Breeze that they won.
Was it? Yeah. So. Oh, there it is. The 2-1 over OpTic in Challengers. Yeah. So this is clearly a team that's done stuff, right? They've won some. Oh, it was Ascent. You literally lied to me. You bold-faced lied to me.
There was another upset that they won on Breeze, I think, at some point.
All right. Appreciate you. So, that was over Cloud9, actually. That was over Cloud9, I remember. It was when, they had their jet play went nuts. But there is some solid talent here. So what would... If you were going to be EG, this is a preview of our fantasy general manager that's coming up next, but I don't think anyone actually picked EG, did they?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Mimi has a very good presentation, and I don't think we want to go too deep into the weeds.
Let's not go in depth with this, though. Let's just say, if they started with this roster and they had one player on top, Anders was speculating that it might be an XSET player. The only one left is BCJ. So maybe... It's this roster, but they have BCJ, or it's this roster, but they have an extra smokes player, or whatever it is. I think this was prior to Zekken being picked up, though, so I don't think I don't think this tweet has ended up being exactly accurate. But where do you think this roster would end up? How far away is it from Cloud9 or NRG's rumored roster or that kind of stuff?
I don't think it would be that bad. I think they actually have a really good core of players here. I think Boostio and Jojimo are very, very highly underrated. I think the biggest thing with Boostio is he's kind of in that weird identity state where he's can kind of be a star player chamber, but he's also been picking up the mantle of IGL, so it's not like he's really fully identified by either. But he's been solid at both of them. I think some of the ideas this team was showing were really intelligent. I think I actually had a lot of faith in the leadership core of this team and expected them to do a lot better than they did at LCQ. And for Jojimo, well, I don't think he had a great LCQ tournament. In Challengers, he was absolutely flying. He was looking like one of the best race players that we have in North America. And I think under the right core, he has the potential to be that. I feel the same way about Apoth as well on that controller role, as having that potential to elevate and actually be able to become an internationally competitive controller player. The players I'm a little bit more doubtful from and that I think are solid, but I haven't seen the like insane potential to actually be able to perform on a top 10 team yet, is for Common and Reformed. So I feel like if you kind of rework those two players, and if you don't want to do a complete rebuild, and you do want to keep your core, you keep kind of Potter, Boostio, Jojimo, Apoth, and then rebuild with two new kind of flex players in there, I think there is potential for a really solid team. I don't think it's a championship winning team yet, but I think it could be similar to like what NRG has been in North America for what is now going to be Partnership.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think if you're taking Common Reformed into the international leagues without backup players, you're just having too many weaknesses on your roster when you're comparing against the quality of players that are going to be in. I I mean, Com made sense if he was going to be IGLing for the team, but he hasn't even been doing that as far as I'm aware. Like, Boosty has been taking on that role almost entirely. And
the one advantage they do have
there's just so many upgrades for
is that they do have a core of a roster to bring into the next few months.
It's like everyone else has 4 months. To
yeah,
figure
everyone
it out.
else is kind
That's
of like
a lot
starting,
time.
not necessarily from scratch, but they are essentially, a lot can change. You can make a tremendous amount of improvements with a new roster in 4 months, but EG will be building theoretically from a core. And I agree with your point as well, maybe about just, I think the community narrative around this team is, I think everybody thinks back to like the stage 1 performance of them just being a bottom of the barrel team in like stage 1 NA. But the reality is this team actually was showing some pretty good signs of life. They just kind of, I think they choked in the playoffs. Honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
They had a big, kind of that inexperienced diff was showcased big time. And, I don't think that one showcase was enough for them to,
I mean, they lost to
experience to
OpTic
offset
and then
it.
a close loss to NRG. It's not like they got blown out of the water by any proportion. Like, they just kind of choked against NRG in the lower bracket and lost to what was then probably the best team in the world.
Well, I think they lost a phase, didn't they, in the upper
They
bracket?
lost a phase.
OpTic.
Oh,
Which also, I mean, maybe if you're the big enough fan, you could argue they were the best team in the world at that time. But yeah, I don't know if phase
I'm
was
talking about
was
when
quite
they
optic.
when they were in playoffs though. For challengers.
Are we looking at a
I think it
different
was
bracket here?
groups. What challengers?
Oh,
is
yeah,
this?
what are
This
we
is
looking at here?
Challengers Wolves.
This is last chance
LCQ.
qualifier. This is LCQ.
They choked the fuck out of
LCQ.
LCQ. I agree with that. That's true. But
Yeah, they
challengers, they were really close.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you've also got to consider that EG did that well without having a full team of great talent. Like, they have 2, you could argue 3, like really solid talent on the team. If they upgrade that to 5, it could be doable. All right, let's get into the fantasy general manager though. Let's get into this segment because we probably should have done it before discussing EG because Mimi's got a whole pitch
Well,
on how to make EG work.
I have a new solution for EG. The one I pitched, not my real solution. I don't think that's gonna work. But let's talk about problems before we talk about solutions because everyone likes problems. Let me pull this up here.
Okay, so this is Mimi's pitch for what she would do with the general manager spot on EG. And the rest of us have to approve or deny the plan.
away from
What are you doing over
I
there?
don't know.
You're just going crazy, huh?
I'm analysis handing and it's
all over
knocking
the
the
place.
mud.
You're like my cat. You're like my cat. My cat the other day, I set down my breakfast, which was a bowl of apples and some coffee. She jumped up. I was sending an email. She jumps up onto my desk, lands in the bowl, spills the bowl, hits the coffee. The coffee flies off the table. It gets all over my fucking white walls. And so I had to spend the next like 35 minutes with a magic eraser scrubbing my walls to make sure I didn't have coffee stains all over my fucking walls. And my breakfast was ruined. And I was like, that's what you reminded me of. You've given me a very sad, sad reminder.
I'm ready to present.
Okay.
There's business to attend to, people.
Okay.
So let's talk about this. You know,
Oh,
her here.
wow.
Evil
Okay.
Geniuses 2.0.
Dude, this is an
Eviler
incredible pitch so
Geniuses.
far. You got graphics.
Yeah.
Wait,
I mean,
didn't
we
put
got
the footer.
graphics. We have
didn't
League
put
of
the footer.
Legends. That's pretty cool. EG, known to be one of the best teams in League of Legends. They're
Yo-
winning at Worlds right now, and we're gonna
Your
make
footer
EG
there.
win in Valorant as well. They're gonna get there. So let's talk first about what's the damage. What are the problems?
What is this
does this
text?
revolution need to fix? Because
Okay.
the revolution
Revolution?
is gonna have to fix a lot. It's gonna be a revolution when I
What
talk about
game
the
is that on
changes
the
coming to this
screen?
team.
Is that Animal
Valorant.
Crossing?
No, this is
That's
Valorant.
Animal Crossing.
That's a new Valorant map.
Pretty sure that is.
I shouldn't have leaked
okay.
that, but this is I trust that no one's recording this, no one's streaming this, no one's sharing this because this is a
No,
private pitch
no.
only for EG investors. It shouldn't be kept around. No recording, please. It's under NDA. But let's continue and talk about the issues right now. And I think the biggest struggle for EG is a low CPM or excuse me, CPI. And you might be asking, what is a CPI? Well, CPI is the Clout Performance Index, which is a scientific metric to figure out a player's value and performance and how much value that they bring to a team, how additive they are to a roster. And it's really a simple performance calculation to be able to find what the CPI of a player is. And what you do is you take the rating in pro play, that's the R in this equation,
Yep.
and you multiply it by the change in followers. That's delta F over the last month.
Yep.
So that's basically a way to kind of determine how currently this player is in the zeitgeist. Because there's a lot of players, right, that they have maybe 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 followers, but it's all from like Counter-Strike or from like the first year of Valorant. They're not relevant anymore. We only want players that are relevant, active and providing value in new followers becoming fans of the Evil Geniuses brand. And you also want to divide that by the top placement in an A-tier tournament or above. So that's something like Challengers, that's an international event. So if they were a first place player, you multiply that by 1 and their rating just stays the same. But say they've only ever placed 5th, 8th, 6th, whatever, you have to divide it by that number. So it really does pull down your rating. Sure, clout's important, but what's more important is placements and how you do in the server. And for a couple examples, first of all, a great one here would be TENS. He has a CPI of 33,566.7. That is
crazy.
Extremely high. That's
Can we
best
afford
case
him?
scenario. No, we cannot. We don't have that kind of money, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fine.
Another example is Valen at 1,629.06. Good amount of clout, 1 first point performance, solid rating in game. These are things that you like to have. These are good things. So really, we do need to fix the issue of not having clout. And if we take a look at the players that we have right now,
I
it
see.
is rough. It is rough. Remember, TENS, 33,000 APOF, negative 142. Because he's lost almost 140 followers this month. I'm sorry. APOF, lovely guy, but that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
We can't have that in this company. We can't have this in the company.
No.
What would you say is the average dollar spent per point of CPI potentially? Do we have that ratio?
Unfortunately, we haven't done those calculations. We can maybe commission that and figure something out along those lines. But I mean, if you're looking at this, even our best players in COM, solid rating in pro play, solid placement, 5th, 6th, in line with everyone else. He's gained 400 followers this month, but that's really not a lot. Remember, Valen, a middle of the line, solid, good player, solid amount of clout, almost 1,500 points. The best we have is 80.
That's a big
and
problem.
frankly, that's not okay.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not
not
acceptable
okay.
for
That's a
Evil
big
Geniuses
problem.
brand.
Mimi Gaming, you've done
How is EG
really
gonna
well.
survive?
Yeah.
They can't do it.
Well, no.
this is the problem.
I believe that there's a problem. The question is,
Yes.
what's the solution?
Well, let's talk about the solution because we can solve this. This is the other problem. Team's not winning. Team is not winning. Before we get to solutions, problems. Only first place qualifiers. Not okay. Unlikely to be able to hold up in the partner league. So I can fix Evil Geniuses. I know all the best Valorant players. I'm knowledgeable on pro teams, and I have a hunger to win.
Okay.
I'm professional. I'm experienced.
Okay.
Let's get to work. Let's work on this. Let's
Okay,
solve
so
this problem.
you can fix them. How will
I
you
can
fix
fix
them?
it. Do you see my tie? I'm quite professional.
Yeah, I
you're a
can see that. I mean, the
Definitely
tie's looking a
professional.
little tight, honestly, but okay, how would you fix it?
Goals of the new project. Let's talk about that first. What are we looking? What is a barrier of success? Uplift NA talent. That's always been the thing for EG. We want to uplift people in our own region. No imports, no pulling out a super team. We want good, honest North American talent in this team. We need clout. The fan problem, I mean, please. We need fans. It is a struggle out here for Evil Geniuses in Valorant. Third, winning. That's the biggest one of all. That's why it's in all caps. Very important. What will I do? Well, first of all, I'm going to remove some players. And sadly, Judgmo and Com, they both have to go. The reasoning is pretty simple. Judgmo, solid player. Good dive player. But unfortunately, he tends to struggle when we get deeper into tournaments, and there's better players available for his role. Same thing for Com. I want another initiator on the team. And unfortunately, Com's not going to cut it. Sorry to his dad on Twitter. He'll probably be quite pissed about this if this presentation does leak. So please, again, no recording, no publicizing this. We don't want him to know.
We're not
that's
showing
fine.
this.
That's
Okay,
fine.
thank you. So those 2 players are gone. More have got to go. Boostio, gone.
You're
Solid
removing
IGL,
even more.
solid Chamber. But there's better players in both roles. There's great individual IGLs. There's great individual Chambers available. Also, sorry to his
You're
mother
getting
on
rid of
Twitter. She's very
Boostio.
nice.
One of the best
Where's our
fragging
core?
IGLs.
Where's the core?
You're getting rid of
There
one of
is
the
no
best
core.
fragging IGLs in North America.
What's the
No, there is
public
no
backlash
core.
going to be like if we remove these players?
No one cares.
Do we have a severance package
We
in
are
place?
getting players with more followers. Do you not remember the CPI?
They
Brent, do
only
you not
have an
remember the
80 CPI for the
What about their
highest. An
parents?
80
Do we have-
CPI.
Do we have like what's the PR team saying about the parents? When
Yeah,
they
how
respond to this?
are we making good to the parents?
We're going to send them. And hear me out here. This is going to make things better. An EG branded cake saying thank you for your time with us to the parents. Parents love cake. They go crazy
brilliant.
for that stuff.
Okay.
Get
that's
one
true.
commission and think it's low cost. It's less than the buyout
is
of
low
Yay.
cost.
Less than the buyout of Tens for one thing like that. And we're only going to need 2 cakes because only 2 of these players have active parents on Twitter. So we'll have to just send it their way.
So
the other
are-
parents will likely also be mad, but they are not on social media, so they don't get a cake, unfortunately.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
But that's
Fair enough.
business. That's business.
Okay, sure.
And finally, Apoth and Reformed, both going out. They're good
So the whole
players,
team.
but we have better available. Whole team gone. But We're keeping some people. The coaching core gets to stick around. Potter and Lynn, they get to keep their jobs. They've proved to be able to present some good ideas and implement them to show creative things in game. And I think they have a lot of respect from the public. Potter in particular has a very reasonable amount of clout. We can't quite calculate a CPI for her because obviously a coach, not a player, but
She did
it's good
play,
enough
though.
to keep around.
We could
She did play
calculate
for
it.
the same
We don't want to
roster
talk
not
about the
that
numbers
long
when
ago.
she played. We don't want to talk about the numbers when
Okay,
she
let's
played.
not
We're not
talk
going to
about
talk about that. So we're going to top-down build around our coaching core. And now you might be asking, new team just dropped.
Okay.
Who's on it? Because we're getting 5 brand new players.
Okay.
Let's talk about it. First off, you
Ooh.
need yourself a star duo. And we're
Okay.
pulling out the starriest of duos.
I'm listening.
From FaZe Clan. They're restricted free agents right now. They're cheap to get going. They'll take a little bit of a higher salary. However, that's okay because the performance they put up is insane. Both these guys were absolutely pounding in the LCQ. They were great in challengers. And on top of that, the clout factor, baby. I mean, this man was on 100 Thieves. Look at that jersey. We could never have clout like that, so we have to leech it from other organizations.
Are
We'll
we
get that done.
legally allowed to let him continue playing in the 100 Thieves jersey?
I mean, I don't think there's any rules against it. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
Okay.
we could maybe, just maybe, let him keep
I think
playing.
this
Also,
idea
I
is
have,
the
I have a
right.
question for the presentation here,
Please,
Mimi, by the
please.
way. So I've noticed that, so part of the CPI thing is their delta in follower changes.
Yes.
How are we going to continue to enable them to have a delta in follower changes? When they join, what's to stop them from, let's say, Dicey Baby get onto a roster? They've joined EG and everyone doesn't give a shit still because it's EG. What's the plan to make their follower counts go up?
Sure. So a lot of teams have, mandatory scrim time, practice time that teams have to do, right? You have to put in the work to get the results. What we're doing at EG, and this is something revolutionized, is mandatory streaming time. 30 hours a week of streaming for every single one of these players. If you have a stream, it's getting bigger. If you don't have a stream, baby, you're going to have one. You're going to have a big stream when you're done with your time on EG.
Okay.
But both these guys already have established streams, great players. That's a good place to start. But obviously, you need a supportive line. You need a back pocket. And what a better duo to bring in than 2 boys from the guard. Trent,
Okay.
I like that. Can we
young
copyright
gun.
that?
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can. We'll get our people working on that one. Trent, he'll be our primary initiator player. Really great young performer, was absolutely popping off in the LCQ. International experience, but still a young guy, relatable. Valorant's a lot of Zoomers, and I don't know much about their culture, but I do know that they like young people. This guy has a big TikTok following. He's got a big following on Twitter as well, and he has loads of potential. So we're going to sign him up, but we also need a leader. And talking about relatability and youth, we got Valen in the mix. Really nice guy, strong individual, good leader. I think he's also very moldable. He proved that under his time with MCE at the guard. And with Potter in the mix, those two can work together to build a good core for this team.
Sorry,
And also nepotism. I
Yeah.
like him. He's a really nice guy.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
that's what
Right,
it is. So
right,
you just
okay.
like, you know what? Honestly, that tracks. I mean, I
I'm
put my
upfront with
cousin as my executive assistant the other month, so I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fair. I mean,
I think it's quite reasonable, right?
My
Like,
son's been working on the board for many months now, and he's doing a great job.
He has been. He's been great. So I think it's good to get him in here. Both these guys, restricted free agents from the guard, easy pickups. But you need a 5th player. And you might be thinking, the cloud's okay thus far, but we need a...
I
Someone
have
to- someone to
exactly
really
been thinking
pull
that.
back.
You've actually put exactly into words what I was thinking. You're like a mind reader.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the man who's going to solve our problems, baby. His
Oh,
name's
Trent again.
His
Oh,
no, don't look at that one. Sabrosa, actually. This guy.
Oh, Sabrosa,
Yeah,
right.
it's actually Sabrosa.
Sorry, I thought
Okay.
it was
It's supposed
Trent.
to say Sabrosa.
I thought it was
Yeah.
Trent because it said Trent.
Okay.
Not Trent, guys. Sorry, that's an error. I'll talk to my
I'm just a
assistant
suit, so I
and,
don't know what
get
any of
them
the players
fired.
look like, so I just
Yeah.
read the words.
Yeah, I mean, this could be right.
It is right. This is Sabrosa. As you can see here, a B on Social Blade. Top 40K follower ranking. None of our other players have this. This man has got clout. He's got a stream. He's got a TikTok. He's got history. He's got clout. And on top of that, good individual. It's the initiator meta. People love initiators. If you guys don't know what that is, it's the flashy people or the info
Right.
people
The
in
ones
the
with
video game.
flashes.
And this
Yeah.
guy, he's very
My
good
kid
at
was
that.
telling me
He's
there's
very
an
good at that.
area on the map named after this player.
After
There is. I
Trent.
mean-
I think no.
Mm.
Yes.
No, Sabrosa
No.
is the guy's
of
name.
course,
Again,
okay.
I'm sorry. We'll get my
Sabrosa,
assistant
sorry.
fired.
Yeah.
Okay, Sabrosa.
We'll get my assistant
Yeah.
fired
Who?
promptly.
And
for
who
this
is that?
Trent
We'll circle
question.
back on that later. Let's continue.
We'll have that
Yeah,
conversation
I mean-
offline.
Okay.
But Sabrosa is who we're looking to sign. He'll bring clout. He'll bring power to the team. Now the big question, why will EG win? We got Baby Bay, Dicey, Trent, Valen, Sabrosa, Potter, and Lynn. We got a strong leadership core, and we have experienced players. Baby Bay, lots of time in a previous inferior FPS-based esport. I think it's something called like Underview. Not quite sure about that one, but people say he was really
Undertale.
popular. Undertale. Oh, yes. He was very
I
popular
do know
in that
people
game.
like that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And he was one of the best at Undertale. Dicey, his duo, 100 Thieves. That's clout, baby. Trent, young player. Valen as well. People love these guys. They're relatable. They're kids. They just got out of high school. I think Trent's still in high school. We'll get him out, though. We'll make him drop out for the clause. Because
Okay,
obviously,
good.
Oh,
we
I
do
see.
need
So
that.
they don't need to be educated to be part of this organization.
No, but they do need to hit a 30-hour streaming time per week. That is
Okay.
mandatory. We're not.
That sounds
we're not
about
moving
right.
talking.
I'm pretty sure Elon Musk talked about that in Success for Business. So
And also,
that
here's the
seems right.
thing, because half these guys are young. They're cheap. They're cheap.
What kind
Yeah,
of budget
no,
are we
I
looking
wanted
at
to-
here?
what's the cost? Yeah, what's the cost here?
Well, it's a little steep. We're looking at $1.5 million investment. But don't worry, it's not that bad. We already have our coaching staff signed. The only big hefty buyouts here are Baby Bay and Dicey and Sabrosa. And you know, if I like one thing, it's deals. Package deals. 2 for 1. Baby Bay and Dicey. I mean, FaZe has got to be vying to get rid of these guys, right? Like, you need something new. Their stocks are in the dumpster. So we offer them a 2 for 1 deal. Take away two of their players. Easy peasy.
Can
Simple
we,
deal. Sabrosa as well. TSM's not even in partnership. Very
Just
reasonable. Very reasonable cost, I've heard.
small suggestion to make this
Sure.
deal a little more palatable, perhaps. Could we take, for example, about 85% of their streaming revenue?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're not going to tell their agents, but it's in the contract. It's actually in Calibri size 1, but it's white. So they have
Good.
to look very carefully to be able to find it.
Good.
Okay, and also could we attach like an NFT line to them as well? Call it something like Clouded Geniuses, and each one looks like a different genius that has clout,
Now, this
like
is,
an
this is why
Einstein
you're
or
a big
a
shot.
Tesla.
This is why you're on the board, Mr. Price, because that is an excellent idea. That is something we
my-
can get working on.
it's
I mean,
not
have
my
you
last
seen
name, but-
Sabrosa's? It's close enough. Have you seen Sabrosa's face? This guy looks like he would live on an NFT.
Yeah.
This man is an NFT.
Have,
He would be perfect in that position. He
who's
already
in
works
charge
for
of-
FTX.
Who's in charge of the content plan for EG?
It's actually going to be a new hire that we're
new
working
hire?
on. It's some random 15-year-old that we found off the street. They have like 1 million followers on TikTok, so
Okay.
they seemed pretty reasonable for the
Well,
job.
I was on the internet the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And I found
Okay.
a video series of this video game, and it was called Defend of the Ancients. And it was based
Okay.
around a big esports event of the year, and they run this documentary type series, a bit like Drive to Survive.
Oh,
You
I
ever seen
love
that?
that. I've seen
I
that.
think if we do
okay.
something like that,
Sure.
something like Drive to Survive, something a bit like that, focused around this new team, and bring them together. Maybe throw in
I
a
mean,
bit of
I haven't even
could
talked
call it,
about.
we could call it Game to Survive.
Game to Survive. I like it.
Oh,
The twist of it. I think
that's
we
a
can
good one.
we
That's
can
a good
circle
one.
back on this a little bit later though, and really nail this down. I think maybe a meeting next Monday.
Overall, I feel like I'm happy to approve the project. What are the other
Well, but
members
there's
of the
more.
board
There's
feeling?
still more. But Mimi says, is there still more to the
Oh,
presentation?
more?
Mimi?
That's it. I mean, just thank
Oh,
you.
that's
Just
it?
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your
Oh.
time. But I do want to say one thing about the Drive to Survive idea, or excuse me, the Game to Live idea. These players are personalities. Baby Bay, this man's face is everywhere. People know him. People like him. Dicey as well. It's time on 100 Thieves. Young gun. People love that. Trent, Valen, also that. Lots of publicity. Lots of public faces. You bet your ass that CPI is raising with these guys on the team. This is the key. This is the solution. EG, hear me out now. If you follow my plan, we'll be the best team in the Americas League. It's a guarantee.
Okay.
Wow.
Investor.
You
I
know
think
what?
this is all really good. I think this is all really good.
Thank you,
I
Jen.
like it.
Thank
I
you.
like it.
I mean, that's really, really nice. That's really nice. As
I'd
long as
vote
Game
yes.
to Live is a DVD, yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go yes.
I
Going
think we
yes.
go ahead with this.
Okay. Rubber
Good idea.
stamped, EG approved. Well done as the general manager. I want to hear from Connor
you.
Price next, I think.
Ah, yes, Price.
Connor
Mr.
Prince. I
Price?
don't know where I got Price from.
Yeah, that's what Mimi said. So I mean, but that's fine. I mean, Mimi's very busy making rosters, doesn't have time to remember my last name. But fair enough. So I guess we'll go with mine, huh? So I've picked a very different organization. On perhaps one could say it's a division in our differences even.
That's
Uh,
me.
No, it's not showing
even
to
a-
program.
I'm doing
I
this
see.
right now.
There you
Zeta
go.
division, in fact.
Ah.
Zeta.
Zeta.
Division.
I do love Japan. I hear they have a lot of fans there.
Yeah, so Zeta Division. Oh wait, let me make this full screen too. That doesn't make it full screen. Wait, I need to make a presentation. How do I do this again? How do I make it present?
Already you're wasting.
It's on the top right of the screen.
You're late to this meeting.
There we go. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I was busy discussing various things. So Zeta Division.
Please no steal.
Please do not steal this. That's because I have a very different reason for why mine shouldn't be steal besides corporate espionage. Gentlemen, lady, do you like Magic?
What, sorry?
You like Magic?
I love Magic.
Magic,
The
yeah.
Gathering? My kid loves that game.
You not the game. Well, a game of sorts. The world's most dangerous game. Magic. The art of trickery.
Yes.
Okay.
I love the
I
art
do
of
love
trickery.
Okay. I'm about to show you the greatest trick the world's ever seen. But first of all, let's discuss about why Zeta Division needs a new roster. Because they have something, they could do something here, and it could be something great that you've never seen before. Firstly, the one team! The one team is real! So, we could make the best team
Bren really
in
appreciate
Valorant. That we could make the best team in Valorant, okay? And it would be the one team.
What the fuck?
It would be the best team you've ever seen. And I'm going to show you how.
Okay.
And it will be clouded beyond belief. And it will be filled with the whimsy and love of pretty much. Wait, am I tabbing out of this when I do this?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Dude.
Or is that just Kurt?
Don't you just click to advance the slideshow?
Okay,
You're
just
not
making sure.
controlling
Either
the
way.
broadcast. Connor.
Okay, I'm moving on. Secondly, problems to solve.
Whoa, we have gone
Zeta
into
Division is a very
professionalism.
poggers org, but it needs an extremely poggers roster.
Okay.
I will solve this problem by proposing a team that is very good, using unlimited money from the Japanese lifestyle brand of Zeta Division, but also dubious morals. And I forgot to add to this. Doesn't matter. This is the Prestige roster edition.
Okay.
Have you guys seen the movie The Prestige?
Yes, I love Magic.
Okay. So you notice that there's two rosters here.
I do.
There's the roster that I proposed earlier in the episode last week with Ball of the Liar, as we know him. There's that roster with Mako, Buzz, Jing, Zeta, and RB. Very, very good roster, mind you. And then, of course, we get the coach of XQQ, who I think has done some great things with Zeta Division. And then there's the current Zeta Division roster of Laz, Crow, Depp, Sugar 010, and then the coach, XQQ. Okay? Two rosters, but only one roster?
Also, who's
How would that work?
Shugera Zero? Who's that?
Oh, that is that honestly, I'd say my executive assistant, my cousin, he's he's typed this up, and he needed a job really badly.
Right.
He just needed a job.
You don't have to explain
really
that
messing
to
up a
us.
lot.
We understand. We understand.
Yeah,
No,
totally get
you
it.
see, I do understand that he needs this so bad. He's been doing whippets, and it's just
Wait,
sometimes he mistypes.
aren't
Okay,
aren't Whippets a breed of dog? What has he been doing with the dogs?
what?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Mimi, that's what we're talking about.
But you understand the purpose here. The Prestige roster edition, two rosters but one.
I don't
Okay.
understand actually.
You
Why-
want
how
to
two
see
but
it
one?
again the second it's over.
Okay.
What? That's right. We will build my dream roster, but actually have a second roster assigned, the original Zeta roster. These players will be a genetic template to create copies of the Zeta Division players, who we perfectly replicate and upload the consciousness of the actual roster into them for each event. They will likely die shortly afterwards from the mental trauma, so we need to constantly replenish them and hide the bodies in the greatest magic trick ever pulled. Moral implications. This could cause many moral issues related to identity theft, bodily autonomy, and competitive integrity. Fuck it, we ball.
What? Wait.
So,
quick tip.
can you explain what technological hurdles we need to overcome in order to make this a reality?
Let's get to the next slide. So you see what's on the right? That's CRISPR. Do you guys know CRISPR?
I do, yes. My my mother actually invested heavily in CRISPR.
Yes, so CRISPR it's not just something you do for your vegetables in the fridge. It's also kind of utilize various enzymes, target RNA and DNA. It's this whole complicated process, but the point being here is that we will grow these clones of the genetic template of the original Zeta Division roster. Because the thing about Japan is that they have a ridiculous amount of clout and fan base, but they want to watch a Japanese team play. Okay.
I see.
They want to watch a Japanese team play. So what we do is we grow these clones using CRISPR and the genetic template of the original Zeta Division roster, which we'll keep under contract jail forever, by the way. They're essentially going to be... They're essentially just going to be used to create these clones. They will not be playing.
So you're aiming to upload Jing's consciousness.
I will be
into
uploading
Depp's
all
body.
of my ideal roster's consciousness of Mako, RB, Buzz, Jing, and Zeta, and putting them into these sort of host vessels that are purposely grown from the Zeta Division.
My question is, how will people not know that it's a new person? Like, what about their
Because
friends,
they
their
will
family,
look
if they
like
stream?
because that's the prestige. That's the magic. They don't know that it looks like them. They're gonna talk like them, but they're gonna play like those players.
Well, they all speak Japanese when they're uploaded. Is it like a
Exactly.
combination?
Well, that's the thing, because that we're gonna teach them Japanese very quickly, because these clones will probably these clones will be they'll be like a child, and children pick up languages very quickly.
Right.
But they're gonna have the playing
Have you
skill
run
and
this
ability
through with our
of these
ethics
players.
board?
Well, like I said, there's a morally ambiguous portion of this, but here at Zeta Division, we're looking to build a lifestyle brand, and that includes creating new life, like Jurassic Park. That includes that. So you have to remember that portion as well. So realistically,
Isn't this going to have a significant time gap between when... I mean, we're going to have to grow these children from test tubes. It's going to take us 20
no, but here's the thing.
years.
What you don't understand here is that because of the advances and look at the cleavage in that thing right there. Do you see the cleavage of the DNA
I see the
fragments, the,
cleavage.
RNA, the Cas9 the Cas9 enzyme? So that allows us to grow them from a mere like egg to a fully grown adult capable of being their consciousness ripped through a body and a new one uploaded in a mere matter of weeks. So in between each major tournament, we could do this. And this team will have an absurd amount of fragging power. As you know, based on that roster, we've seen what they can do. We've seen what Mako, Buzz, RB can do. You add in some nice initiated play there from Zeta, who's trained in the fires of Cloud9, now the super team. And he may have really, now he's left for T1. And, you know, we'll have to pay some money, but that's fine. And then with Jing, who I think has sort of the drunken fist of Valorant in terms of how he plays. He just has so much unbelievable skill and will help fill out that double flex role. You know?
How much money will this cost us?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
CRISPR,
curious
from what
about the
I've heard,
money.
is very,
well, you have to
very
remember.
expensive.
You have to remember that Zeta Division is absolutely. We have millions and millions of fans. We're continuing to build up our marketing strategy, and then when we add in our bioengineering division, we'll be able to get all sorts of different revenue streams. Okay.
Right.
Now
Of
I have
course.
drafted up some vague, I think some vague numbers potentially, some of the roster transactions.
Okay.
Don't look at thank you yet, but as you can see. That, you know, I'm estimating here for the various buyouts, you know, we're looking probably around like $2 million potentially. But how it will be done is the true thing. Because you think, why would these teams give up these players? I'm going to let them in on the prestige.
You're gonna...
Okay.
So, to be clear, you're going to give them access to your CRISPR genetic...
No.
just
You're
gonna
misunderstanding.
tell them
You're not understanding magic. The magic here is they'll know how the trick is done. You know how Christian Bale was searching the whole movie, trying like, how is he doing this? How is the prestige? How is he doing it? What? And then he sees it in the final moment. That'll be what I'll show to the DRX execs. What I show to the PaperX executive team, to T1. I'll show that to. I'll even go to David Denis as well. I'll find him where he's been hiding in a sewer somewhere or some sort of clinic. Don't worry, I'm going to find them and I'll let them in on the prestige. They can know the trick. But only if I can get their players, and they can never repeat what they've seen here. They can't. Under punishment, or also go to the Magic Castle in LA and be executed for magic war crime. Okay?
This idea is very interesting, Mr. Prince. You brought us a very interesting idea. That's your presentation? Okay.
That's my presentation.
There's a couple of obstacles that I could foresee.
Yeah.
Number one,
What would that be?
the Board of Ethics. I think they'll... Do we have a country in mind where we're going to be performing this procedure?
Yes, we do.
What country?
We'll
The
be doing
question
that.
answered then. That's the question answered.
Okay,
Next question.
Sure. The other question will be the cost, but that's already kind of been cleared up. But I think this idea, it has legs. I just worry about the PR, because the PR around this...
What I'm worried about, Mr. Prince, is what happens when the real Mako, Buzz, RB, etc. meet Zeta Division. Will they not notice?
When they meet them.
Yeah,
In what
because
way? What do you mean meet them?
Those humans will still exist now. You're not planning to kill off
Yeah,
RB
but the
Mako.
thing is, they'll be living, but they won't be playing. Their goal is to be literally just be genetic code. They're going to be just chilling out.
so
They're
we're
going to be
buying-
living in their own apartments and like hanging out. We'll be paying them not for to be players. We're paying them for their literal ribosomes, for their nucleic acids. Okay. We're the only people that will be playing. The only ones that have to worry about continuing to play are that roster who will continue to train on their own time, and then every couple weeks we're going to upload their consciousness of what they've been scrimming into the bodies, the hosts.
I don't
For the next
think
event.
this is the most immoral thing I've heard of in esports. I think we'll get away with it.
Okay.
I think we'll get away with it.
Yeah.
Quite reasonable.
And think
really.
about this: the revenue streams are crazy. We're already building merch. We're getting crazy good national events, and what's a big step from merch to human consciousness? I mean, really, what's the big
Yeah.
step there in terms of marketing? So I think overall that we'll be able to make this very successful and open up a whole new stream of revenue for Zeta Division when we're trying to be, once again, that lifestyle brand in Japan. And I think our new motto should not be just, Zeta Division, whatever the fuck their current motto is. It should be Zeta Division, we are literally God.
That's a good slogan.
I mean,
Playing God.
that's a good one. That's quite absurd. I think my biggest question is, why stop here? Why end using the technology on just these few players? Why not continue to use it? Why not say sell it to the Japanese military or to some other?
First of all, I don't think Japan technically has a military right now.
They have a defense
but-
force, and I think they could defend a lot with this technology. And I think Zeta Division could make quite a lot.
The thing about Zeta Division is that most
technology.
importantly, it's the biggest thing for us is that not only would we create a really competitive roster that would still capture the Japanese fans and hearts, but we would also literally be able to create Japanese fans and hearts. And so then we would also be able to use them to view our YouTube videos and get eternal clicks.
Right. Okay. Well, what are you thinking here? Yes or no, Bren?
I think there might be too many obstacles with just
There's no obstacles with cloud. Do you
scientific
realize how clouded Zeta
community, I
Division
think,
is?
would throw up a couple of obstacles with this one.
Okay. All right.
Just on an ethical basis, there's some people generally take issues with creating new life
Yes.
for the purpose
yeah.
of
Often.
online video game competition.
Yes. Mimi, what are you thinking in terms of yes or no here?
I mean, I feel frankly that the sky's the limit with this technology, and even if it doesn't work with the team, I want this technology as part of Zeta Division. I want this under our brand. We've done.
You'll only get this tech if I'm the GM. If I get to run this roster and do the prestige, and most importantly, the only thing that really matters to me is the magic.
Okay.
The magic of the trick. I'm
Yeah.
pulling the wool out over the whole of everyone's eyes. So
Okay.
you only get it then. I can do that.
I mean, I think that's quite reasonable, frankly. Like, the money spent on these players, not that much. I mean, we don't even have to continue to play them. I mean, there's questions here. Are the clones real human beings? Do we have to pay the clones? I don't think so. And maybe that's morally dubious, but it's cheap. We'll make a lot of money, baby. I think it's time to invest.
Okay, so we have a vote for and a vote against, which brings things down to me. And unfortunately, Mr. Prince, I've already received reports that this is the reason why Crazy Raccoon weren't allowed into partnership system. And I've heard that you've already been working with them previously.
Listen, we tried to create the Crazy Raccoon. We could have done it. We could have done it.
For that reason, I'm out. I don't want to be seen as copying other franchises and what they're doing. I'm afraid you will not be signed as the general manager for Zeta Division. Good pitch, though. Good pitch.
Yeah, yeah.
Good pitch. Very
Good
compelling.
pitch.
Okay.
This is a Valorant podcast.
All right.
Okay.
To get things back on track with the Valorant podcast, is it my turn or do you want to go
How
first?
do we do this?
We operate it off here.
Oh, you've got my presentation?
Yeah, well, I've got mine, and then we'll go into yours.
You can do yours.
Does that
then.
seem reasonable? Okay. Okay. Mimi, you've come back with a prop at just the right time. Mimi, you've come back with the perfect prop at the perfect time.
Okay.
Some might call that a cat and a living life form, but I call it a prop.
I do have my prop here. I'm ready to hear a pitch. I'm ready to
Today,
hear
I
some-
would like to pitch you all for my plan as the general manager of, I'm sure you can tell, Furia. This is
Okay.
the Furia 2023 pitch, and their mascot in the background there.
Whoa.
Yep, here we go, Furia 2023. Oh, Kurt's fixing some stuff. Oh, there, getting that off the screen. All right, okay.
Oh, this is a sideshow by slideshow. That's really lovely.
Well, other way around, slideshow by sideshow, but yeah, keep up. Keep up. Okay, so here's my pitch. Here's the context, guys. Nobody can be luckier than Furia. Loud, the best team in the world, our biggest rivals, they just exploded. We've always been wanting the fame, the success, the respect that Loud have got, and now is our time. We can simply buy it. We can simply use a capitalistic way of the Americas and buy our way into fame, success. And here, I've got a graphical representation. Just focus on the screen for a moment and imagine this player becoming this player. Wow.
Wow.
Are you already hooked?
I am hooked.
No.
Okay. Okay.
I like this. I like
I'm
this a lot.
listening.
Let me explain.
Dude, who hired this guy?
Well, no one yet.
guy's
That's a
That's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal of this.
Here's the proposed roster. Furia as an org. When I think of Furia, I think fury. I think anger.
Yeah,
I don't
strong
really
emotions.
I don't really know what fury means, but it kind of sounds like fury in English, and I don't speak Portuguese, which might have been a major problem for a general manager of a Brazilian org. But listen, that's what I'm going for. Okay, I would like to make a roster that will make a lot of people angry. Because anger drives clicks. You ever heard of rage baiting on the internet?
I have, yeah.
That is
Overwatch 2 released recently.
That is our
do that
number
every day.
one way to clicks. So, for the wholesome core of the roster, we need to buy Sassy and Sadhak. And this guarantees we have access to our Brazilian fan base. We have two multilingual god-tier players. Sassy, Sadhak. That's who we're starting with. By the way, we're getting rid of all of our current players. I didn't even put that in there because I feel like it's obvious.
Okay.
I don't even care. I forgot. I run this team. I forgot their names already. Get them
We're
off.
starting from the ground floor. Sassy, Sadhak, Furia. That's where we're going with this. Let's move on to the next one. So in order to do this, we're going to need a lot of cash. And this is our cash acquisition policy.
Okay.
We're going to need
the cap.
a lot of cash. So what I propose is a bank robbery. So this is going to be how we acquire the capital with which to get the rest of our players. You're all members of the board. You all understand where we're going with this. We need to take these meetings offline, but I've given you just a broad idea of how we might attempt
Who would be
something like
performing the robbery?
our old players.
Oh,
I see.
Will they know what they're doing, or are we going to set it up like, hey, this is a fun video game, this is a new simulation? Or are we going to do some trickery like that?
Well, I think all we need to tell them is it's a training protocol, and we need to get the IGL to call an A-split into the bank, and I think we're good.
This is genius.
Thank you.
Because we get
This
the
is really
players in.
smart.
If they fail, we have cause to drop them.
Yes.
Without paying their contracts.
Yes.
And if they succeed, we just drop them anyway and pay out their contracts with the money they've just got.
Exactly.
It's genius.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very
I've been
smart.
working on this for a long time. The details will need to be ironed out, but I'm confident that the IGL of the current squad will be able to.
Which
square
bank
things
might
away.
would they rob that
What's
would
that?
have this level of cash? Like, you'd have to pick a good bank that would have this level of cash, right? Surely you have an idea in mind or a vault of some
I
sort.
have contacts in Switzerland.
Yeah, the Swiss banks normally have quite a lot of security around them. I'd recommend something more local, probably.
Okay.
But I think the details can be ironed out offline. Honestly, Johnson. If you have any ideas there, though, I'm all ears. No, all good. Then we'll move on.
No, I have ideas. I just can't tell you because I already have my own plans.
Okay, all right, good. Well, after we've acquired the cash, one thing should be made clear very early. These are my cash expenditure plans, and it must be noted the cash acquisition plan of robbing the bank is actually the least risky part of the roster building process. I said I was going to make a roster that will make a lot of people very, very angry, and I want to start here. Our first acquisition, the first chunk of change will be spent on the salary for cNed and some racial sensitivity training. Because Lord knows he's going to need it if he's playing in a Brazilian organization. Because the comments he's made in the past, frankly, unacceptable. And I don't think the Brazilian players will continue to play with him without that. So that's gonna take a lot of our money right there. So moving on to the next one. Oops, we need to go backwards here. The second band of Benjamins is going to be spent on the salary for Marv and then his lawyers once the ESIC report finally drops. So we need to be extremely cash dense and very liquid for this. We need to be very liquid for this salary. Are you guys not interested in where the rest
I'm
of this is
interested.
going? I said it was going to be.
Doesn't have a.
I said it was going to make a lot of people very angry.
He doesn't have the stomach for this sort of venture investing, okay? Only us sharks.
Yes, exactly.
it.
The remaining money will go on the salaries for Dicey, Heat, and Les. We're also going to need to spend a lot of that on Duolingo lessons because Dicey's got to learn Portuguese and Heat and Les have got to learn English as well, but I'm very confident.
What about Marvin and cNed? Those two players, to my knowledge, don't speak Portuguese either.
We don't have enough capital for Duolingo lessons for everybody. So I was focusing on the players that I think are least likely to get disciplinary action and sit on the bench for the entirety of the season. So I think...
So what were to happen if those two players were to get disciplinary action and sit on the bench for the whole season? Wouldn't you only have 3 players?
No, because we still have Sassy Sadak. So Sassy Sadak, and then we have our 3. So don't worry. Either way, we're covered in this situation. So, okay, moving on. Those are my cash expenditure plans. And we go through the final roster, okay? And please note that while a lot of the rosters you might have been pitched only have 5 players, we need a minimum of 6 for the active roster, and we probably need 7 just to make this roster work, because I'm anticipating some disciplinary action happening. So first of all, our entry player, that was supposed to zoom in and spin, but that's okay. We revealed who it was earlier on anyway. cNed, our Flex IGL player, of course, Sadak, our Initiator player, Sassy, Smokes player, Marved, our Sentinel player is Dicey. I couldn't find a better picture of him. And backup entry player, Heat, could play Chamber if required. And finally, Les to round out the roster. This gives us multiple... couldn't fit him in. That was a very long picture of
So you're
Dicey.
telling me you've bought 2 more incredibly clouded Brazilian players and haven't put them on the roster, and instead have put people that would piss off the Brazilian scene if you put them on a Brazilian roster?
I want to make this very clear. The best way of getting engagement is for half of the people to love you and half of the people to hate you. Nobody will have no opinions about this roster.
Just like my parents' marriage. That's fair.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually based it on our board president's childhood.
I have a question as well. From what I know, the scene, there are ways that we could drive even more hatred within this team.
Yeah.
Why have we not considered Zoms?
You know, I forgot Zoms because he fell out of relevancy last year, but I probably should have added him into the plan. And, you know,
I mean, could we not put him on like say an academy team maybe with some young up and coming Brazilian talent? He could mold them.
Zom's
He's very
academy,
experienced,
perhaps, and he could, he could be the IGL for the academy team.
Yeah,
I love this idea.
Zoms keeps saying on Twitter how much he wants to visit Brazil.
I would say, depending on our cash acquisition plans and how well they succeed, we may have extra capital with which to spend on an academy team run by Zoms. But
What if we rob Zoms
I'm
of
a
his
fiscally
watches?
responsible general manager, and I don't want to over-promise here.
Okay,
because we don't know how much we're getting from the bank robbery anyway. It probably varies based on the day-to-day kind of systems. So, moving on. Oh yeah, that's the end.
Right. So,
yeah, this is guys. This is how we win a championship.
Couple of issues with this. I like the idea of driving engagements.
Yeah.
At any cost imaginable.
Yes.
What I don't like is, okay, will this roster be able to play in Brazil? First big major tournament.
Yes, in Sao Paulo.
Yeah. I feel like you got a balancing act here.
Well, what I would draw your attention to is the fact that cNed and crew already played in Brazil.
Yep.
And were put into a protective casing.
And we would do that just for cNed.
Well, I mean, maybe for the rest of the team as well. Because people's aim isn't very good. I mean, if they're throwing piss bottles around, you don't want it to accidentally hit Marved when it was aimed at cNed.
Sure.
So I would propose soundproof booths. But that's on Riot, really, isn't it?
There's a lot
about piss proof?
Well,
you sound.
Most things that resist sound resist piss as well. In my
I don't know. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Any other comments, queries, concerns?
So my question is, what do you expect when? I guess I have a couple questions. One, what's the likelihood of success for the team to clear the bank properly?
That very high chance of success.
High.
Yeah, very.
How do we know that? You don't even know what bank they're going to rob yet. These people are gamers. They have
also,
no
what background do they have in robbing banks? I mean, they're not. I mean, I don't get it. Where's it coming from?
Should we not hire professional bank robbers? Surely, by selling our players to some other team, we could have the capital to invest in proper bank robbers instead of forcing our like young players to do that. They have no experience.
Yeah, no one's been stealing bags on this roster. It's not like it's not like we had like fucking like Hiko or something on the roster. Like no one's been like, so come on.
Yeah, well, I take all of your feedback under consideration, but I do think that the general population is scared of young men who play video games. They tend to associate that with violence anyway. I think if they walk in and just say some common phrases that they've heard in Valorant, you know, what are
those
some
phrases
voice lines? You know, watch
Hawk
this.
out.
And you know, what do some of the other people say?
I mean, yeah, Hawk out, right?
Hawk out, yeah,
Hawk
this
out.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think
Hawk out.
they'll
I think Hawk
immediately
out would be
panic and hand
effective.
over all of the bags.
Okay.
There's a character called Phoenix, like burn Phoenix burn. Like,
Oh yeah, that's true. Also, I mean, I guess since Marv plays a lot of Omen, like you know, I remember when Omen goes to the server says it's Omen in time.
Yes, and then he
that's
omens
Omen's
all
all
over
over
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Omen's all over
So
them.
we'll just have them omen all over the bank people and
mean-
escape with the cash.
okay.
I have some concerns with this plan personally. I think we should circle back on this.
Okay.
With a couple of adjustments.
Okay.
Most notably, I like the idea of the rage bait of trying to drive the engagements through sheer anger of an entire population.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea and
Yep.
could not backfire in the slightest.
Yeah.
But I just think it needs a bit of polish.
Okay.
So listen, I think Jenkins will set you on this as well as part of this. And I think we'll circle back next week, I think around 9 a.m. Monday.
Okay.
For another meeting, and,
thank you very much for at least giving me the time, and I'll go forward at least with the bank robbery part, just to give you guys the options in the future.
I mean, obviously we didn't condone it, but if you can make it happen, let's make it
Yeah.
happen.
Don't add it in the
Let's
minutes for
make
the
some
meeting.
business.
Yeah, and
I think,
no email chains as well.
No. Let's keep this
Yeah.
all above board.
Of course.
Yeah.
Keep it in
As
Slack.
the
Keep it in Slack,
overseer of
people.
this meeting, we're going to have to move on to Bren's presentation because we do not want to miss our top golf appointment at 4:30.
Okay.
Oh,
True. Okay. Brennan Hook.
Okay.
We
Actually, the Top Golf said they had a bottle of champagne ready for us. The stuff we requested. The French
So-
variety.
Wait, you've skipped me.
have I?
Yep.
I do apologize.
Okay. Hello. Today I'm presenting to you my idea for Sentinels,
Sentinels.
the top squad of the Americas League.
Okay. I love Sentinels.
This is my application for the general manager position.
For 2007.
I had to sorry, I don't have a license for the newest version of PowerPoint.
Okay.
So I had to use an old version that I had at home.
Right.
Understandable.
that's a very old version. That's about, you know, what is this, like 15 years old?
Please bring up my presentation.
Oh, you want me to click the buttons? No, sorry.
I got it. Don't look. Thank you. So, starting off, my goal is to win it all.
Okay.
If you make me the general manager, I'm going to plan to win everything.
Okay.
The whole America's League, the whole shebang. Sentinels is the team that I'm pitching for here. This is the team.
Yep.
There they are. There's the old team.
Right.
And there's the most recent team.
Okay, good.
Wow. Just like 2007, the most recent year.
Yep. So
Yep.
these are the players. We've all seen them.
Yep.
So, why I would make a good GM?
Yep.
I'm clouted more than most people. I have a good social blade score. I'm up there with my followers.
What is your social blade score?
I haven't checked recently,
Okay,
but
right.
it's good.
All right.
I've played a lot of Valorant, probably around 5,000 hours, if I was to guess.
Mm-hmm.
And third, I'm a tier 3 sub in lots of streamers' chats. It's going to give me the insider connections we need and the edge we need. They've said my name lots every time I've tier 3 subbed.
Good. Good.
Okay.
Out loud.
So they
Go-
know you already.
Go Sentinels.
Fair enough. Okay.
The team. Let's get started. And I've included a movie reference here, The Expendables, because this is kind of the idea of what I was
appreciate
going
that.
for. I was watching this the other night, and I really enjoyed this movie because they brought together all the old action stars together.
You were watching The Expendables 3.
It was I really like the movie. If we could bring it up. And this is what I'm going for. It's a bit relatable. The team, starting with tens. We're going to keep tens on this roster. Why? Clouted. Great player. Millions of fans. Self-explanatory. Here's a picture of him in case you forgot. Second, we're bringing back Shroud. He was a fan favorite. He's got big viewership numbers. I tier 3 subbed to him, and he said my name out loud. So I think we'll be able to reach out and get this guy again.
Okay.
There he is.
When is that
Very
from?
nice.
Wow.
Very nice.
Okay.
Third, Tarek. This is a bit left field, and I'm hoping you'll stay with me here. We signed him as a content creator. Already great step forwards. And you might be thinking, well, he hasn't played in a while. But what do you need for a team to succeed? Clout.
Good players?
And so this is my core philosophy when building this team has been around clout. And if we bring up the presentation, here's a picture of Tarek.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Next. Wardell. Where is he? Hopefully we can find him in time for this roster build.
Right.
But he's also a clouted individual, and he's got lots of fans. I've been scouring TikTok.
Yep.
And the kind of target demographic that we're going for, which is from the age of 11 to 13, big
Right.
fans of Wardell.
Yep.
And so he's an operator player. We have tens as well, but I think we can get both Wardell and tens. And here's a picture of Wardell that I gathered as well.
Easy shots and flicks. That's quite impressive.
Are we going to have him playing Sova, or is that just...
No, he's going to be playing the operator character. So
Right.
whatever you
The
can get
operator
the operator
character.
on
Is that new? Unreleased character? The operator character? Or?
Pull up the presentation, please. Next, the fifth player we're getting is Xander. And I've gone for Xander because he's pulling in... He's like it's like a young kind of like e-boy aesthetic, and he's got an up and coming stream. Really great player. Here's a picture of Xander.
Oh, he's quite short, isn't he?
Yes.
Wow.
Squat fellow.
But the important element that we've all forgotten with building these teams has been the sixth player. And this is really the crown jewel of my Sentinels that I'm trying to build here.
The crown jewel is the player on the bench.
Exactly.
Right.
Because the idea...
I mean, you have tens, Wardell, Tarek. Like, how can you get better than that?
We are clouted out the fucking wazoo. And how can we get even more clouted? Hiko. The perfect six man. Where is he?
Wait,
On
but
the
you're
bench.
literally missing 2 players. You can't find them.
He's going to be on the bench. We will find Wardell and Hiko, and we found our six man. It's going to be Hiko. Spencer, there he is. And listen, he's going to be okay with this. He's already, kind of relegated himself to streaming, and now we're bringing him as a bit of a backup. One of the players gets sick, whatever. We play Hiko.
So just to be clear here, you have 2 smokes players, 2 like jet chamber players, a Sova that you've put on the bench, and no other initiator players.
But the goal is, one of the goals is to win.
Right.
But the primary goal is numbers.
Right.
Okay,
I
well, you
see.
said
What kind
you
of
said you
number?
wanted to win it all, though, as well, in
Well,
the beginning of the
that's
presentation.
one of the goals.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the
Wait,
goals.
okay.
And I think this
Sure.
roster will win. The players have really good view. Like, I was in the chats of a lot of these players, and one of the most common question I get is like, why don't you play in partnership? To a lot of these players. So I think they probably will play. Next slide. Now, this is an important factor. Who is going to coach? Who would coach?
Right.
Because this is important. There's a lot of egos on this team, a lot of butting of heads. How do you manage this many big players, big names in the scene? And when I racked my brain, there was only one person I could think of that was fit for the job, that could make these big personalities work. And that is...
Oh, Belichick.
William Stephen Belichick.
You have Belichick.
Whoops. How do I go
What
back?
does
Go back with that.
what does he know about Valorant?
I've messed up the order a little bit, but it's Mr. Belichick, who is one of the greatest head coaches of the NFL of all time. Six
Really?
record Super Bowls as the head coach of the Patriots. This guy knows how to wrangle players. He knows how to wrangle these players. Now, with the money that we're going to be earning from this, from the players that we've gathered, the stream numbers we're going to be putting up, the merch sales, I think we're going to be able to afford this guy, and I think he's going to have what it takes to wrangle this team.
What's your estimate on how much it would take to bring Bill Belichick over to Sentinels to coach the Valorant team?
I think we'll manage.
Okay.
I think we'll manage it.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not. Thank you.
I have a couple
Right.
questions. I have a couple
Okay.
questions right off the bat. Right off the bat here.
Yep.
So one, what is Bill Belichick's grasp of the game of Valorant?
he
Especially
doesn't-
we're looking to pay potentially more. His value alone would potentially be worth the entirety of the Sentinels' valuation. Secondly,
I think so. So I think, for one, he doesn't really have much experience in Valorant, but I don't really think
Yes.
that's important. I'm kind of following the model of T1 with their coaching, and so
Okay.
I just don't
Sure.
think it's that important in the
Okay.
first place. What is important to me is, as I've already mentioned, the numbers, and I think that we'll be able to offset the costs with just merch sales, earnings check anyone, and there's Bill again.
Dude, he
And-
looks down on himself.
And I think that
that's
honestly,
before we got the Sentinel money.
we'll be in a good spot with this one. He doesn't have much experience, but he can wrangle players together. And what was your other question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the second question was, so you're hoping to recoup all that money via merch sales / earnings. What? So merch sales and earnings. Earnings of what?
Yes. Earnings.
Earnings.
What's
I mean,
under
is
earnings?
it going to be like earnings from streams? Are we taking
Are we
a chunk of
taking
these
their
players'
money?
stream
Because
money?
surely Tins wouldn't agree to that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we'll take the players' money, but we'll make them perform in a series of content pieces. I'm planning a collaboration with Germa, and we're going to get
Okay.
them all to perform some live reenaction of like a Sims house where they have to live together. And they'll also
Okay.
be playing and practicing their games from them. I think we'll be turning that into a content series, and the whole time the chat will be watching, and people can co-stream it. Tarek will be able to co-stream it from the Sims house as he's role-playing as a Sim. So that's
okay,
it's
but
like a
we don't really
feedback loop
make
of
any
content.
How
but
do we
don't
make
take
money
from
that?
a stream? And is that supposed to generate tens of millions of dollars?
Well, I think everybody will want to buy a T-shirt after that, and so merch sales should be the primary way that we offset.
So how
the
much
costs.
are you anticipating a T-shirt to sell for?
We could probably manage for like $100.
$100 T-shirt. And
Yeah.
so how many?
$100 t-shirt.
And well, some people might pay $100 for a T-shirt. How many T-shirts would we need to sell in order to make this, for us to still be in the red?
I haven't really ran the numbers, but if I was to give you a quick estimate, I would probably say around 9 billion.
9 billion.
That's quite a lot.
So that's a decent amount.
So you're
honestly.
saying we need $900 billion to offset the cost of these rounds. How much is this Belichick fella costing us?
Pretty expensive.
Well, he's quite expensive.
About
Yeah,
899 billion.
yeah, he's quite
Now,
expensive.
actually, I mean, now also 9 billion. I believe that's more people than exist on the earth.
Some people will
currently.
probably buy a
But-
couple.
This
But
is
I mean, you could buy duplicates.
This is a big
So-
long-term plan, and also part of the idea is that by the time this roster comes into fruition, there'll be a population explosion and a big growth, and everybody will
Okay.
that'll
Next
be where,
year, you're planning
I mean,
population.
these people will be children. These people will be children.
And that's our
like
target demographic,
1-year-olds.
I think. And these are the people that are really latching on. I've been scouring the kind of the TikToks
So
and
wait
the
there.
chat.
So this is your roster for next year, and you are anticipating a population explosion for next year.
It's all about
And
long-term
that's
growth.
our target demographic, are people who are born next year.
All about
We're
long-term growth.
selling-
It's all about long-term
We're
growth.
selling to newborns.
It's all about long-term growth.
Now,
'cause
actually, technically, I've heard because of CRISPR, newborns they could be very old very quickly. They could be true.
old borns.
Yeah.
Like
So-
9
actually.
billion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it's
see. I
possible.
see.
and that is my presentation.
Well, those numbers seem concrete. I'm down. I think this seems like a good idea. What does the rest of the board think?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I don't see the fundamentals, but I like the ambition. And what it comes down to is that, my parents told me hit the pavement, put out your resume to employers. And that's sort of what you did here. And I think for that, let's hire you. And I think, honestly, let's give him $10 million a year.
Oh, just for him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
sure.
yeah.
I mean, that's quite reasonable, but I say that money talks. And unfortunately, Mr. Hook, what you're showing me, it's not talking. That slide deck.
Well, I have prepared an
2009?
alternative roster.
2009 PowerPoint. That's not money
2007.
speaking. You would have the 2002, 2007. You would
Yeah.
have the 2022 PowerPoint
I have
if you
prepared
really
an
were talking
alternative
with
roster
money.
that might be
Okay.
more to your taste.
Okay.
I mean, if it's a little bit cheaper, maybe. But I mean, this Belichick.
I
fella,
think it could be cheaper.
I don't,
I think it could be
Okay.
cheaper. I still want Bill Belichick though.
Okay. Good.
Okay,
can
well
pull it
that
up.
outweighs most of the roster decisions, but sure.
JK laughing my ass off. Here's the real team. You've been visited by the wise mystical tree. If you're over 25 years old, you have to play this game. Here's the roster. Here's the real roster. Anytime now when they show up. Anytime now. Having some issues with this.
My honest reaction to that information.
Yep. I don't know why it's not showing up. This is odd. Maybe it got deleted.
JK Lamau, hear the real team, and it's just a picture of the green man.
Maybe it got deleted. What?
There's no other
it's just-
slide.
Oh, there's the.
It's in white. Oh, okay. So it would still include Hiko.
Yeah. So hold on.
So this is our real roster.
Yeah, this is the real roster here. So here's the real roster, because I didn't know how funny we wanted to make this, but I actually have put together a genuine roster that I think that this team could make, and that is, I think, in the form of this here. You've got, listen, Valen as the IG. I'll start from the top, though. We'll go for Baby Bay. Clouted, fits the Sen bill pretty well. A pretty top-performing player. I think you could put him in this team, and he'd do pretty well. Zekken as well, flexible. A young player that can be molded pretty nicely. Sugetsu. I've put Sugetsu in because I think that there is a kind of almost not too many players that fulfill his role at the moment.
So we're going to try and poach him away from Na'Vi.
Yeah, we're going to try and poach him. We're going to try and grab him away. Valen, another young player, great IGL. Bring him in. BCJ, up-and-coming initiator player, also got a lot of promise. And then Hiko's a six-man, because I don't think any team is going to be able to make six-man rosters work too well. I think why not just put Hiko on the roster? Just give him the signing. You get the clout factor. Put him on as the six-man. And as for the coaching, I still want Bill Belichick. I'm sorry, Don, but maybe you can work underneath Bill.
I'm sure
I
Don
think
will
he's
consider that a great
working for
opportunity.
Sentinels right now.
I mean, would Bill Belichick be like the mental coach? Then would you keep like
Yeah, he'd be-
Psycho and
he'd be the
Kaplan as like
interview guy.
strategic coaches?
He'd be the interview guy. He'd be the mental coach.
You'd be mental to hire
He'd be
him
in the
as a
comms
coach.
as well
Yeah.
during matches.
All right, Lord
He'd be in the
Almighty.
comms.
I need a break after that segment. I need a desperate break after that segment. We'll see you on the other side. Oh, sorry. Well, we'll see you. Bye.
Hello, everyone. It's me. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Oh, this is really loud. All right, let's turn it down. All right, let's do 3 minutes break. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That went way longer than I anticipated. That was an hour-long Fantasy General Manager segment. I personally thought that was going to be roughly 20 minutes. But it was pretty freaking awesome. Pretty well presented. Everybody put a lot of effort in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I think if you are listening to this right now or in the future, you should leave a comment whether or not you would buy or sell these pitches. Personally, the only one I'm buying is a VAS. It's a very ambitious plan, and I agree with it. Load up chat. Hello, chat. No one wanted a GM for global esports? No. Oh, by the way, we can catch up on any news as well. I've been trying to keep up with what's going on. Any news that has happened today. I don't think anything crazy has happened today, but we will be getting to a lot of the news that has happened already this week after the break. Such as Sentinels, NRG, Scream and Nivera news, Team Liquid, BBL, Global Esports, and of course, Wyatt's Weekly Award, and any other breaking news that comes up during the show. Yeah, we got it all. You guys are typing stuff I already typed out and already prepped. Don't worry about it. Hopefully we cover everything. If we don't, you know, sometimes things fall through the cracks. But I think we got everything situated. I did a lot of research this week by loading Reddit every single day. It was difficult. to read through that.
Yeah, that'll get you, Kurt.
Yeah.
That'll get you. Oh. What is our hard out here, Kurt? What do you think?
Well, not global esports. Our Top Golf appointment is at 4:30.
Oh, it's at 4:30. Okay.
Yeah, so we probably have to leave at 4. So we have an hour and a half. Welcome to member, beta for days.
Welcome to
That's
member.
almost the password to this computer, by the way. No, I'm just kidding.
What a great piece of trivia if anyone's trying to social engineer their way into the back end of Plat Chat.
Oh, also, Ian Dingwall gifted 4 memberships to our channel. Thank you, Ian. I don't know if I have an alert for that. I should set that up. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Andy.
You're welcome, Andy. You're welcome for him.
Oh, I said yo, welcome.
Oh, I don't know how to listen.
But that does sound like you're welcome.
Look at all of them. These are all thanks to Ian Dingwall. Dingwall? I should know this by now. Thank you, Ian.
Old Ian.
This is the best part. I'm gonna switch screens, and it's just gonna be Josh by himself with no other people in the room. Oh, there we go. We got Brandon. There goes.
I'm here.
O'Connor's back. Mimi's getting her stuff situated. Obviously, honestly, a 3-minute break was kind of short, so we'll chill for a bit. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. This might actually end up being the longest episode we've ever done because there is still a lot of news.
Oh yeah, there's still tons.
We've done longer episodes.
God.
No,
You know,
what is our longest? It's like 3 hours.
our longest was
20?
3 hours and 20-ish, 3 hours
Holy
30.
moly.
I think wasn't that an Overwatch show as well, or was that a Valorant one?
I'm not sure.
No, it
I'm
must-
pretty sure it was Valorant
must have
because
been Valorant.
pretty much, yeah, it's always Valorant because Valorant one's way longer.
Yeah, there's like 20 different regions to look at.
There's 80 regions to talk about, 40 pieces of news,
Yeah, we'll
50
skip that one.
consoles.
I'll wait a little bit more for Mimi and see if she heads back. Ian Dingwall, thank you for the super chat as well. Lol, I came back with a gifted, y'all. There you go. Ian, popping off in the chat.
And real quick, thanks for supporting the show. It's been freaking awesome. We've been doing some cool shit thanks to you guys. So
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah, we were able to do some cool stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to do some cool stuff in the future as well. Or we'll just let the entire brand die. We'll see what our plans are for next year.
We were thinking about doing that recently, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
might be a little bit
we
of a
thought it'd be really
surprise.
funny if we just kind of like left and didn't say anything. We just
Yeah.
just stopped uploading and then you know we're just like, huh,
Yeah.
that'd be funny.
Just refuse to talk about why when people ask.
All right, let's get cracking then.
All right, let's go.
We'll wait for Mimi later, I guess. All right, so first team I wanted to talk about is actually Sentinels. So moving on from Bren's Sentinels pitch.
This is the reality we're living in.
Yeah,
now.
this is the actual reality, which is that Sentinels have been reported to be bringing on. Actually, I don't know whether it was reported or announced at this part, actually, to be bringing on Psycho, a.k.a. Don, the guy that was in charge of coaching and managing, honestly, as well, for XSET, with Kaplan as the strategic coach. So kind of that duo. Oh, there you go. It was announced. Of head coach Psycho and strategic coach Kaplan, who I know have been working together for a while as well. And they are putting together a roster for Sentinels, which is reportedly including Zekken, Def, and keeping dapr is the other part of that report.
So
too.
are they actually keeping dapr? Or it's just that he's...
It hasn't been recently reported that they're 100% keeping dapr,
Right.
but I think that the intimation previously in prior reports was that that they were intending to stick with that element, but who really knows? I'm sure everything's still a little up in the air.
Yeah.
But yeah, George has reported that Zekken and Def are going to be added to the roster. So what do you think about that as a starting point?
Really like this from the... I always go on about, listen, the coaching staff is super important when you're building rosters. The most important element that you need coming into this. And I think you've got Don and Kaplan. Kaplan, when he was coaching for Ghost as well, Ghost Gaming, had great strategic depth as a team. And I think Don as well has proven that he's really good at talent development and managing teams in general. And he's going to be able to bring over, presumably as well, some players that enjoyed, working with him in his time at XSET as well, which is top talent in the form of Zekken coming over.
Sure.
So I think that this is Sentinels actually coming into this into partnerships with a really good idea and kind of putting, I imagine, trust in somebody like Don, Psycho that is, to build this roster from top to bottom, which is good. I thought Sentinels were going to go for my meme presentation. No cap. I mean, listen, a little bit less than that, but I thought they were going to go heavily maybe into like the clout direction and kind of just prioritize that. But this is Sentinels that are trying to win, is what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think for them, their big I think they clearly identified as well with the release of Raucus, which was also, I think it sounded like he was kind of blindsided by the news, honestly. But like,
and Shaz as well, actually. That's the one thing that did annoy me about this, is that there was just pretty poor communication, it sounds like, on the Sentinel side. I think Shaz found out on stream from an article that he was essentially not going to be part of the team.
Pretty brutal.
Which is pretty horrific.
He had already been told that his spot was not secure.
Sure.
But yeah, this clip, I mean, you're not going to be able to see anything too much here without the audio, but it's really sad listening to it, man.
Yeah.
Because he's just realizing live with thousands of people watching him that he probably doesn't have a spot for next year. And he's like, fuck.
Yeah. This was...
Now, didn't he say that Sentinels was going to be his last team he competed in, though? Am I misremembering that?
I think you
Or am I just giving him am I giving the Mixwell treatment?
Yeah, I think you might just be applying the Mixwell statement.
Might be doing the Mixwell thing with him. But either way, the point being is that, like, I mean, also, I feel like it's unfortunate, but it's clear that their structure heading in is really, like you said, we talked about the strengths of Psycho and Kaplan. And that's what this team is desperately needed for a long time, is like real structure. Like very, very real structure. I don't think Raucus can't do that, you know? It's more so, to me, I always viewed Raucus as a guy that would be really good in a supportive role and not a head coach type of role. And so it's clear that they wanted to go a different direction than what he was currently providing to them.
Yeah,
definitely. And I think that it's just, this is like Sentinel. They're essentially putting on their big boy pants, putting on their tie, and they're going into the meeting. Like, they've gotten coaches, they've gotten Def to add like some actual rounding out of like their in-game structure too, not just like how they're working about practice but actually like, okay, we need someone that's like gonna really strategically fit and like isn't gonna mess up our roles and like is gonna have like a real IGL experience and getting like a very, very good player with Zekin. So I'm very happy with the direction they're going in, because I know Sentinels is insanely invested moving forward, because this is their game. Like, they really only compete in 2 titles, and it's this and Halo. So
yeah,
they won.
My question is, what's the deal with TenZ? Because I don't think there's been any leaks, at least that I've seen, around like where he's going, if he's staying on Sentinels, what he wants to do. Because I know, like, after Cloud9 and like ahead of Sentinels, like he wanted to just retire and be a streamer. So I'm wondering if he'll just go the clout direction and just step away from competing, or if he'll stay on this roster. Or
I believe that the original report, so the title here, like rebuild the roster around dapr, I think that's the reference there is to a prior report where it was said that they weren't prioritizing TenZ staying on the team, and the only player that they were looking towards the future solidly was dapr. That doesn't necessarily mean though that TenZ is gone at this point, right?
Yeah.
TenZ is still actually never played on a team that had that level of top-down structure.
He's kind of been done dirty, I think, over the course of his like just lifetime playing in competitive Valorant, where it's felt like the only time Sentinels had success is when TenZ is putting up giga numbers,
and they just all played around.
And they all just plays kind of I mean, it was if he was put in a team with good structure around him that's being built to support him, and I think the guy could actually really pop off. He's still a great player. He probably just comes with a very hefty price tag as well attached to him, which is another thought that Sentinels are probably having right now in terms of, do they want to keep TenZ? Is it going to be worth the kind of cost?
I think if we just focus in on the players that they've got so far, though, getting Don, if it was a package deal where Zekin and Def both wanted to follow wherever their former head coach had gone, that is a great deal for Sentinels, because that's just a phenomenal core. I think aside from Ye, I would call Zekin the second best pickup of the offseason. Or rather the most, that should have been the hottest prospect of the offseason. Yeah. You could maybe argue that certain IGLs are worth a bit more because they're so important to how a team works, but Zekin is such a good player that's been proven at a LAN level and hyper flexible as well. I think it's interesting though, contrasting Def compared to like what you had proposed seriously, Bren, with Valen.
So,
with, like Valen Trent, because
actually, yeah, I wanted to speak on this because I think that Def is actually an interesting pickup on this roster. It's understandable with Psycho coming in as the kind of like head guy that Def would come over here, but I thought that there would have been better options available to them if they wanted an IGL, because Def has been splitting the IGLing in halves with AYRIN when he last played with XSET. That's what we last know of them. Yeah. And when Def was full-time IGLing, it wasn't that good in my opinion. I think that there was a bit of a slump in his own individual performance. It was heavily affecting his individual performance when he had to IGL, and the IGLing itself was kind of, it wasn't... It wasn't enough to carry the team into the very, very top section. It almost like they had to kind of split off the workload between him and AYRIN in order to really bump themselves up into the top pedigree of teams in North America. So Dev's an interesting one, and I wonder if he has been brought in, because I think outside of that, I don't know how much stock he would have had outside of this. You know what I mean? I feel like Dev is a high-value, experienced person to have on a roster, but I could see a world where they end up picking up another IGL like Valen or anyone else who might be available, and Def becomes the sixth player of this roster who might be brought in every now and then.
I would be surprised if that happens, honestly, just because there aren't as many IGLs around. Also, dapr previously has done secondary calling for Sentinels, and so if Def works best in a situation where he doesn't have to do all of the microing of a team, which it sounds like he as a caller likes to do a lot of micro stuff on the attack side, from what I've been told. But on the defense side, he hasn't really been doing that. Most of the setups have been run by AYRIN, and then Def does some other, tweaking of what's been going on. And also, defense sides are often being called by people that want to be proactive too. Like if you have a chamber player on your defense that wants to be set up on certain angles, you like build the defense around wherever they want to play. So I don't know. I think I would be very surprised if he gets moved into a bench position, but I do somewhat agree with the idea that up until this champs, I wasn't confident in him being a world-class IGL. I thought he was a good IGL, but not a world-class on the same level as people like FNS or Sadak or even Boaster, who hasn't actually got big results at an international level. I feel like the team structure in terms of how they play macro has often been better than somebody like, or a team like XSET. But at the recent Champions run, they actually looked pretty
his
solid.
Stock went up, I think, off the back of Champions.
But it was also mostly on the defense side, if I recall, hard to say from the outside looking in. What do you think, Mimi, about Def? Is this going to put Sentinels in a position to potentially win?
I like the change. I think that Def is a really good pickup. I think he really proved himself at the last Champions. He was really impressive to me when that tournament got into the late stages, and he was finally like putting up the performance that we've been waiting to see from him for a very long time. And I think that the attack side calling in particular was really good in this most recent tournament out of him. So I think with the right structure and with the right players kind of built around this, like they have a really strong core. I think the biggest question for me is how the kind of calling structure will work now with dapr in the mix, or with the remaining two players being signed. I mean, you have another slot for kind of a more supportive person. Will there be another voice that's coming into this team, or is it going to kind of stay between those two? It's kind of a good start. Let's wait and see. I have a lot of faith in the coaching staff, would be my general takeaway on Sentinels.
Who would you like to add in here? Right, because, I mean, they need a, probably, if we're going to think about things classically, they need like an entry player, somebody that's going to play the entry roles, the duelist stuff, that kind of thing. And then they also need a smokes player. If they're going to keep dapr in like a hard sentinel position, I mean, maybe dapr...
Wouldn't Def pick up smokes?
Yeah, I was thinking about
Def
mostly playing the flex stuff, because he's been mostly playing like KO Breach and that kind of stuff for the team at the moment. But yeah, he could play smokes. He could play Sentinel.
I think that you could pivot this team into would be having a bit like a superstar player that can just hard carry. I mean, there's plenty of them, I think, on the market that, some that they've worked with. Well, not that they've worked with prior, but I mean, if they wanted to keep TenZ as well, TenZ could fulfill that role. You could have Baby Bay, you could have Sire player, for example.
Sure.
There's some great options out there. But then the initiators is where you want to really pick up the load, I think, as well, and move Def into that smokes position maybe full time.
Yeah, I mean, you could have Zekan be your entry player, actually, because I mean, the guy plays Jet, he plays Raze, he's super flexible. And then It's interesting that there are no current reports about BCJ following them.
That's
right?
what I thought would be a bit of a no-brainer. Yeah, was BCJ coming in to kind of fill it in, and initiated players are super important to this. He's worked with that core, which it should be a bit of a no-brainer in my mind. But listen, there's a lot of factors that come into it. Maybe BCJ's got some good offers elsewhere, or maybe they're still working on it.
You've got BCJ, you've got
think you
Trent available. Who else is
Yeah.
around there that could fill that kind of role?
I think you put dapr on the initiator, and I think you pick up like a hard like Sentinel like Chamber Star kind of player instead.
Interesting.
dapr on the
That would be
initiator.
my takeaway because he was playing
Huh.
initiator in LCQ, and I was actually a fan of. He was playing the Fade, playing the
playing
KO. I
Fade,
thought
yeah.
he was pretty solid on both of them, and I think that's something he could lean into in the future. And you pick up like a hard like chambery like Sentinel star player, like someone like a B-Dog or a Dicey to come in. You let Zekin be kind of the star like dive / like flex player. You keep probably dapr on like kind of that flex initiator. You put Def back on smokes, and then the only like kind of last role would be a second initiator, which I would say probably BCJ or Trent are the best shots for that.
I mean, you'd already have Zekin on that role, would you not? Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
you would,
you'd
sorry.
have Zekin entering in the scenario that you're talking about where you pick up a chamber. Yeah. I mean, they could add Baby Bay and Dicey to this team and have Baby Bay and what would that be? Baby Bay Zekin up at the front,
Yeah.
and then Def playing smokes, dapr on more hard initiator roles, and then Dicey picking up chamber. That'd kind of be a
Yeah.
nasty team, right?
Yeah.
That combines multiple different cores together. And
I mean, they'd still have to worry. I mean, if the meta shifts though from off of chamber a bit,
Which it looks
more
like
that
it
Sen-
is.
But
Sentinel, which it
also,
looks like it
actually,
might
that
be
team
doing,
still
so.
functions, in my opinion, if
Still
the meta
dapr
shifts
and
away
stuff,
from
though.
chamber, because you have Dicey moves back into more of the fragging role, Zekin picks up initiator, dapr moves over to Sentinel, and you can actually shift the roles fairly easily back to the kind of
Out of all the
older
players
meta.
True.
on Sentinels for them to keep as well, I think Sentinels, from their perspective, they would have wanted to have kept at least somebody from the old roster to just have some tie-in from the old roster to this one as they head into partnership. Otherwise, you're just kind of you're essentially just relying on people following the org still for your popularity. dapr, I think, is a great choice out of players because it seems like he was playing pretty good Valorant in 2022. Seemed like he was willing to change his roles pretty drastically in order to fit what the team needed. But it just felt like he's been driven since honestly his poor performance at the end of 2021. Since then, it's felt like he just needed a better system, a better environment to play in, a better team around him. So I'm not upset with dapr staying on this roster if that is the case.
I also really, really want to see Shaz work within another team. I'm not saying that Shaz is a phenomenal IGL at the moment or a phenomenal player because his performances in most recent times have certainly dipped. I mean, in Stage 2, he was playing the worst Valorant I've ever seen from him. But what I've seen in the past, and whenever I've seen him play in big tournaments or at LANs, he's always played better. And I want to see him with a really functional coach system where there's a hard head coach, hard tactical coach. Shaz is working with them. Maybe he's got like so hungrier players around him as well. I'd like to see him in a situation like that. It's the same kind of thing that I think of with Tens. You know, I still believe that he actually could still get back to, I mean, where he was is a bit much because he was arguably the best player in North America when he was putting up incredible performances and IGLing. But I could see him getting back to a position where he's very much a good fragging IGL, somebody like a Valin, where people are talking about he's a value player to get onto a roster.
Yeah.
Maybe
Honestly,
no one takes a chance on him this time around, but I want to see him in a good system if he plays in an Ascension team.
If he wants, that's what I mean. If he wants to keep competing, I think this could be probably one of the best. I'm not going to say one of the best things that's happened to him is him, getting bumped down into tier 2. But I think one of my biggest criticisms of Sentinels in 2021 and 2022, like throughout that kind of era, was that they were player ran and they kind of just, it felt like they had no clear direction from like top down. And so if this is the wake-up call for Shaz, and it sounds like he's going through some maturing of his own as well. He put out a tweet saying like he didn't handle criticism the best way. It's hard when you've got thousands of people watching you every day
definitely.
and you're getting constantly bombarded with questions and criticism and you're just watching it all and intaking it all. And, you're trying to like prioritize content because it's a successful avenue for you. But, it sometimes might get in the way of, content creation, blah, 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 whatever. But this could be a good opportunity for Shaz if he wants to keep competing as the wake-up call, and now to honestly just maybe prove that he can play back up to that old form and potentially earn a spot back into the Premier, the top division of American Valorant.
People always seem to put the microscope on Shaz because he's one of the more outspoken people that does frequently stream. But if you ever think back to when Sentinels were winning stuff, it was all driven by Shaz. Shaz had that, like, the most obvious motivation, desire to improve, to, like, keep the team focused on what they were doing. And there was, like, silly elements around him, but he was always trying to keep the team on the straight and narrow. So that's why I feel like there's redemption on the horizon if he can find the correct system with which to play and continue to develop as a player. But yeah, this team seems fun for the Sentinels fans to follow.
Mimi's lights are freaking the fuck out in the background.
Can you put
Are they gonna
Sentinels
do it
Red
still?
in there?
I don't know how to stop that. Oh.
There we go.
There we go. There we go.
There we
The
go.
beacons are lit. Shazam will find a new team and pop off.
I honestly hope so. Like, back when Sentinels was good, it almost felt like he was like a coach for this team. This is when they had like no support staff, and he would just like overnight do all the preparation practically on his own to build something up. Like, he's proven that he can develop a system. Maybe it's not a perfect system, but if he has the right support, I think he can still be a top level player. So I hope he finds a good home, even if it's not at Sentinels, which it doesn't look like it will be.
Yeah. Interesting team to continue to follow, though. On the other side of things, from a team that's like, you know, trying to rebuild their reputation from clout org to top org, on the other side of things, you've got NRG just essentially picking up OpTic and then adding ardiis to it instead of Yay is the current. I mean, they still don't have Marved. We don't know where Marved is going or if he's going anywhere or whatever. But apparently there are now links that ardiis would be going to NRG with the rest of OpTic, which is
Weird.
So out of left field, but pretty cool in a weird way. I mean, he would instantly be the most outspoken player on OpTic.
Yeah, I think this is
I mean,
all on
FNS says
NRG,
stuff
man.
on Twitter.
What, sorry?
He says stuff on Twitter. FNS will drop
Yeah,
some
this-
I know.
spice occasionally.
That's what I was saying, that as if, I mean, but ardiis is even more outspoken than FNS.
yeah,
is.
that's true.
But
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
this
true.
all makes sense to me if this ends up happening, because I mean, it says NRG is hopeful of signing ardiis. It's not necessarily set in stone, but ardiis is a very strong-willed player. And honestly, at times as well, which we've all seen from the interviews when he was playing with Angel, is that he, you know, is butting with the IGL a lot in terms of the ideas, butting heads a lot. But I think if there was any IGL on out there, FNS is a player that could also just kind of keep. I'm not going to say keep ardiis in check, but I think that you need two strong-willed players to kind of just keep ardiis in check. FNS, you know, as well. FNS would be a player that could manage him as a star talent, and I think that could be an interesting mix. He's definitely mad talented as far as players go. So, yeah.
I mean, with Ye on the roster for OpTic, Ye was very, like, if you ever listened to any of the videos they put out, like, it always seemed like, even just in interviews and stuff, that he was very outspoken, and he was that guy on, like, the defensive sides, would be very vocal about, this is how I want to get set up, this is what I need to be able to thrive at my best, and I think ardiis is one of the best people that could fill pretty much one for one into that. Maybe he doesn't have quite the same star power that Ye does, but he can be amazing, and he can get damn close to that level. So I think pulling in this core with him makes total sense. I think it's a pretty good one-for-one swap out. I think the bigger question for me, it is about Psalm, because what it would look like to me is if they're keeping Psalm in this roster, which I think the rumors have been that they're planning to, maybe if they can't get Marv thus far, then it would be in a position where Psalm is pivoting fully into that controller role, which is still kind of new territory with Victor on the roster taking more of what Psalm would normally play back when he was with NRG. So I think that's the interesting switch up for me. But Psalm is also a player that I think if he's in the right system could be great and could perform to that level.
Yeah. Psalm has played a lot of different stuff, but it is what I remember when I remember him playing Omen. It's playing Omen in a no duelist comp on
it's always
on
wacky.
Breeze. There's always something.
Yeah,
a bit
and being
funky
the
going on.
entry player on Omen.
Yeah.
And just like running it in. So.
But I think this team, to me, I think it's an interesting point that you bring up about ardiis being able to one-for-one swap in with Ye, because in terms of a lot of the intangible stuff, I'm there with you. In terms of how they actually play, though, I feel like ardiis plays away from his team a lot more than Ye does. The way that these teams would play on the attack side, FPX are very slow-paced, with ardiis playing quite a solitary role in terms of their defaulting. A lot of the time, when OpTic are going for execs, Ye is with the team using the space that they create for him in order to set up and kind of hard carry the team fight, right? Like, If you think about how their Neon comp would work on Haven as an example, the Neon is hard inting into the site as a battering ram to blow open space for Ye to come in and Marv to come in and trade kills and get all the kills on the people that try and recontest that space. That isn't really the way that ardiis has played in the past, and I think you're asking a lot of somebody to do the same work that Ye did in that kind of spot. If they want to slow things down a little bit and play a bit more like FPX did, that puts more pressure on Victor, actually, because instead of just being a battering ram, you now have to find and create opportunities in a slower pace system where it's not just all of the utility being poured in. So I think
if it was the inverse?
what's
Where ardiis were... What if it was the inverse, though, Josh? Where instead of they ask him to be the Ye, and we hypothesize that Som, if he stayed, would be the controller... What if they value ardiis' flexibility from the past, and they move him onto a different role, and Som stays on the duelist?
Okay, so Som is the entry. Victor is playing who knows what under your system. And ardiis is... I mean, ardiis or Victor are playing smokes.
What if ardiis learns smokes? What if ardiis learns smokes?
No. That is cap. That is giga cap.
I mean, also, this pickup doesn't actually... The other thing that this pickup does is that if we go back into like a jet meta, right? If Chamber doesn't become... If you think about the old OpTic team, if Chamber dropped out of the meta, then you'd have a shift where you would go back to playing entry, Victor would go back to playing flex, and you'd shuffle the roles along back to where FNS is hard anchoring sites as a Sentinel. That doesn't really work as well, I think, in this system. ardiis can play the jet, but he's not a superstar jet player in the same way that we've seen Ye in the past too. So I think this is going to end up being a weakened version of OpTic, not just because of like them not having Marv, but because their system worked phenomenally because of the insane firepower that Ye gave to them and the fact that he could just be a god tier entry or chamber player.
Who's what?
I mean,
what's the coaching
think about how
staff
many
looking like?
entries that he got for the team. Like, he opened more rounds than like anyone else. Like, it was absurd what Ye was able to do. And like, ardiis put up a solid performance at Copenhagen, like a really good performance when they pushed it to win. But he hasn't proved that same level of consistency. Like, it is a huge void. And I feel like that just forces like a step up from Victor in particular, because like Champions was a pretty slow tournament for Victor. He's been a player that like domestically in NA has been really dominant, but I think this change would put a lot of pressure on him.
I agree.
Because he would have to move away from being that like kind of like hard, like I'm going to in on Neon because Ye will get my trade instantaneously. If ardiis doesn't adjust his play style, then that does put the pressure with Victor to slow down his style and be more of the guy who can claim those entries and be kind of the opener in rounds for them, which he hasn't really had that pressure on before.
Yeah, and you think about, I mean, this is the OpTic core minus their two best players, right? I mean, Ye and Marvs were easily their two best players. And you have Victor, who can be great, but is not always phenomenal. And then you have Som, who we already have questions about, and FNS, who doesn't do very much fragging at all. So it's a weird roster now that is kind of existing off. Of course, you still have Crashies there, who's an excellent player. But you have a weird squad. You have a weird squad. Where would you expect them to end if they had this team?
Top 5 NA.
Top 5 NA is not an answer.
I mean, realistically, if you bring OpTic and then if the meta, let's say if ardiis gets to stay on like Chamber and comes over and move, this would be another core that's probably aiming for that top half of the Americas region. If ardiis gets to stay on the Chamber, I think once ardiis starts getting off the Chamber, it gets a little bit wonky about like what the roles might be, especially if it's Som still on the team and everything. Like, so I mean, based off the current like Chamber meta, this is another squad where if you're going to pick up the OpTic core and have arguably the best IGL in North America and two of the best, if not two of the best supporting players, and then pick up a star duelist or a star Chamber player that just did incredibly well in EMEA, and then another, like if Som's on the roster, someone that's been very, very good throughout his time, like you're aiming for that top half. I don't think you're aiming for like that top 3 position that like the C9 spot is going to hit potentially. When you have, but like
that's
they're
a
still
big drop off
competing
then
within
for
them.
the OpTic guys.
I think they are though. I feel like they have to. Like you're signing the core of what was the best team of the pre-franchising era. You're paying, I imagine, a pretty high premium to import artists from Europe And I mean, you're only keeping one player of your previous roster. I feel like for NRG, like they are expecting like a top 3 team. They're expecting like near OpTic level results from this squad.
Do you think they're going to get OpTic level results? They still have arguably the best IGL in the game, which is FNS. They still have one of the best initiator players.
So. I feel like this could be a team that is competitive in Brazil if it comes to fruition. If Chamber can stay relevant and they can keep ardiis on that role, like I feel like this team can be good, particularly with how much time they will have to put something together out of it.
Even with someone smokes?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. It'll require an adjustment in his playstyle. I think that is where another one of the big pressure points are. Obviously, it would be more optimal to get Marved in the mix, but Sam Zoman has been good in the past. I'd like to see him pick up more controller roles and see what he's like as kind of a more passive player if he can slow things down. I think that's kind of the win condition in what can Sam do. We know what the OpTic core can do. We know ardiis can be great. If those guys are performing, that's awesome. But where does Sam slot in? I think is the biggest question for me with the roster.
To me, when I look at this team, I think of pre-Berlin Envy, where they'd be like a top 3 team within their region, but not actually able to do not able to do too much internationally. I think when you look at pre-Envy or pre-Yay Envy and post-Yay Envy, they're 2 different teams. And I just don't think that ardiis is the magic bullet to replace Yay. I think it's going to require a big shift, and I think losing Yay and Marved is going to be a bit of a death toll for this team being the best anymore. Like, they might still compete, but I don't think they're going to be the best squad in the world anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk EMEA. Scream and Nivera are in talks with Karmine Corp, the French clout org. So the Belgian brothers, who are francophones, they both speak French, are in talks with unbelievably clouted organization Karmine Corp. I mean, if there was a way to grow your CPI, it would be this.
Yeah, this would be it. This would be the move. Is there any other whispers on the wind about Karmine Corp?
If there are, I've missed them.
I think XMS, who plays for Mad Lions, who I don't know much about, but he's a guy who speaks French.
He's a smokes player,
and he plays
isn't he?
Valorant. Yeah, I think so.
You're an
an XMS. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
I don't
care about the other 3 players. The other 3 players are irrelevant. These guys have enough clout alone. Karmine Corp has enough clout. Going to be an awesome clout team. It's going to be the fucking Sentinels of Europe. This is awesome, and I love it.
What I really want to see is that Scream and Nivera are very talented individuals. I think Scream definitely showcased that most recently, but I'm worried that if they do build with... Listen, if they follow Brennan Hook's Sentinels 2023 fucking game plan of just focusing on the clout and not about the kind of structure that might surround players like Scream and Nivera, you're going to fall short of where the mark should be, or where people expect you to land, especially because you're going to be gathering so many fans. I mean,
this is such a like player tweet. Such a player tweet to see there.
A great tweet.
Also, who would be the coaches that were for like? I'm assuming if they're building a primarily French roster, they would have a French coach.
Well, but Connor's point is this might be a French-speaking team.
Yeah, because if you have 3 French-speaking players and on a French organization, it's starting to point towards they're going to be primarily French. So, like, what is the remaining players / coach?
What?
The clouded French bald coach that coached G2, that coached like every Counter-Strike team. He's French.
Oh, I can't remember.
You're outside of my field of
expertise
here. I'm not sure. I mean, they bring in
Johnny Sins?
They bring back Existence, Akuko Sihe. I
don't know. I don't know enough about the French.
I just don't know what's the rest of the French
These players also speak English. There's no reason why this should have to be a French-speaking team, and I think they'd be limiting themselves. You don't understand how much clout
they need. You don't understand how many followers the French viewers will give them if they go all French.
But you can't hear the comms anyway. You can't hear the fucking comms anyway. Just have all of your
content creation in French.
No, but it's not about it's about them all being French. Is what I'm saying.
It's
like it's also about them all being French.
Yeah.
Also, the ease to work with and such like that. Like there's other benefits, like logistically and marketing wise, to being all French besides like the actual game.
You're limiting the talent pool though significantly.
Yeah. All I want to see is Scream playing on a team that's
got an IGL.
Yeah, got an IGL, you know, and has got a clear idea of how they want to play the game, because this was one of my biggest issues is like the guy's got immense talent, but I don't know, for one reason or another, there was just so much so much silly stuff going on with Liquid.
Yeah.
Throughout the history of that team, just so much silly stuff.
They were a silly team.
And so there's no doubt, like if this ends up being a lock-in, listen, Screaming Nivera, Karmine Corp going to be fucking clouted out of wazoo, but I want to see Scream playing a good team. You know,
I swear they won't be bad though. They won't be bad. The Scream Nivera duo. I mean, part of this was adding Yampy into it too. But if they get some other decent to cracked players to fill out this roster, even if Scream's IGLing and it looks like a mess, they're still going to end up like decent. And it's going to be very annoying, but they're going to continue maintaining a lot of relevance, a lot of clout, and they're going to be decent. It's just happened so often with Liquid. Team Liquid themselves, though, are making enormous moves. You said get Redgar and Eng, right?
Yeah.
So Team Liquid have taken your advice by the look of it, because they are building a really interesting team. This is under the assumption that Scream and Nivera have already kind of left for Karmine Corp, but Team Liquid have been associated with, I believe, who was on it? It was Redgar, Nats as well, and
Safe?
Was it Eng? Oh, and Safe.
Yeah, safe.
Yeah.
It was safe. Yeah.
That
pretty
is-
fire. I'm not gonna lie. I think
Those are some huge free agents right now floating around the EMEA.
Safe really proved himself. I think just in general, at the most recent, what was it, Copenhagen?
Copenhagen,
I
he
think the
popped off.
Guy went crazy at Copenhagen, and if they get Nats, if they get Redgar, if they get Eng as well, I mean, they're making really good moves, honestly, to be a great team in the EMEA region. I think they should have all the pieces really that's required. Just in my mind for what makes a great team.
I wonder. I don't even know what roles they'd really be on here either. Nats has been playing
They
something
can play
like,
whatever they want.
yeah, I think they probably can actually. Redgar's played like Sova stuff, and he's played Smokes in the past. Safe has
He's
played
also played
Entry, and
Duel.
he's played Chamber. Nats has played Smokes and Sentinel.
They literally have played like a bunch of. I mean, pretty much the only thing they haven't really hard. They don't really have like a hard Sova player at all. But like Redgar has done some of that initiator stuff. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you know, easy fix for that, dude. Fucking lights. Easy fix for that. Chronicle. Get Chronicle.
You know, your lighting
Honestly, I
doesn't
think I
actually
can-
look too bad here. You could just
Yeah,
leave.
actually, you know what?
pretty
I'm just gonna be in the dark.
Yeah, we've got two
There we
players
go.
in the dark, two hosts in the dark, and two hosts in the light.
There we go.
What would you expect this roster to look like? Because they still actually have some people on Liquid.
Who's left? Who's left right now?
I think
They have
Soulcast and Yampy survive.
Soulcast
right?
and Yampy?
Allegedly.
Do you think Soulcast survives?
I don't know if Soulcast survives.
I mean, that's what the rumors are saying, but
Free agent market for
I don't
EMEA
know.
is so fire that you can. There's so much talent in EMEA. It's just about how you sort it and make it work into an active team.
Okay, so let's assume people are keeping Yampy, right? We're keeping Yampy. Yampy's popped off recently. So your team is Yampy, Safe, Redgar, Nats. Who do you have as your fifth player there? Who are you looking at? Like, you know, Trex is on the open market. You've got Nookie that you could look towards. What role are you even trying to find? Like, are you looking for the initiator player? Do you want Chronicle or? I mean, Trex could actually play initiator, hard initiator for them too.
I mean, if you keep Soulcast, then he's like kind of fit into that KO like Sky role, right?
yes.
Posted for them.
Soulcast has been good on like Sky, and then he's been good on Raze, and he kind of played a bit of Sova, but I didn't think he was
played
ever
some
that great at
Fade
it.
too.
Yeah,
So,
his Fade
like,
was
I
decent.
mean, overall, like I mean, if the current agent picks would be right, like you'd probably keep Redgar and Smokes, because I don't think there's not like a ton of different smokes I'd personally put over Redgar other than like a Vova. You know,
Yeah, I don't.
like
I don't, really know.
I don't think I can think of like
The-
a ton.
If we're
Yeah.
looking at initiators, though, there's no player that screams out to me. I know Leo was rumored to be
Going to
trialing with
Fnatic,
Fnatic
yeah.
or going with Fnatic, but Leo, I mean, there's got to be bidding wars over that guy.
Yeah.
He is an absolute freak of nature.
But then there is also Chronicle, right? Like if you're bringing over
Yeah.
Redgar and Nats, you have
feel like
access
that's the most
potentially to
logical.
it.
Isn't he going to Navi?
No, Chronicle was supposed to be going with Leo to Fnatic.
that's
Those were
right,
the
they
two
were
players that were being
trialing.
trialed there.
Yeah.
So listen, maybe Leo and Chronicle are both off the free market at this point.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard
don't
to
know.
say from the outside, but yeah, Trex would be the other guy that springs to mind for initiator players actually, because when he was playing, I mean, he was just playing a bunch of different shit, but I've always been impressed by Trex, whatever he was playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
I mean,
let's
that's
move on.
Probably the easiest one.
cNed was apparently announcing something today. Has he announced it already?
He did. He announced that he's playing with it. So Ascend announced their roster for that Superdome event, and cNed is on it still.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
But that event is not for.
When is
Yeah,
it?
I mean, he could join another team though and still be playing for Ascend. The rules say that you're not allowed to play for multiple partnership teams at the same time. But if Ascend aren't in partnerships, then presumably he could play in an off season, even if he was signed to another team. I don't really know what the details would be there. But he tweeted, "This is the day," with like a melting smiley, which was strange to me, and he just hasn't followed that up with anything.
Okay.
So who knows? Maybe,
So,
but
not today.
BBL are apparently in talks with cNed, and I don't know what this possible rebrand thing is, Kurt. Could you explain that again? It's a video, right?
It's this. Oops. It's this video.
Okay. Let's watch the video.
It's really cool. I guess we could play it with sound, but no sound for now. ASMR.
What?
Make the sound effects, Brun, as you see them.
Clang.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
So what does
So
this
it's
mean?
Breach. It's Breach putting BBL in the bin.
They're putting it in the forge. They're firing up.
I
the
mean, this would
BBL
imply
logo,
that they're making they're making something new. It's definitely a rebrand of some
melting
sort.
it down. Oh my god! Look at Breach go,
But then they still have BBL.
dude.
I
That
don't-
guy's smelting.
But I don't think this
It's
is a
gotta be.
rebrand.
It's gotta be a new logo. It's gotta be a new logo. Like they're not gonna show that, right? It's 100% gotta be.
It's a new logo,
where-
but then they show their logo at the end.
I think that might be a new
Face
roster. Isn't that
or
saying
just
they're
the new
forging
roster.
a new roster?
Yeah, maybe a new roster. Maybe they're doing like a Rings of Power like activation.
Do you guys
like,
know what
that could be
BBL
it, too.
stands for?
Brazilian butt lift.
No. Do any of you guys know what it stands for? It stands for
No.
Big Boss Life, and life is spelled Layf.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, I had no idea. That's terrible.
Yes.
You know,
so they
that
should
is-
change. They should rebrand completely. I know they're clouded, but
But the thing is, they're still, but they're
Louise.
new. But after they spent the time super fucking heating the metal and forging it, it still was BBL.
Mm.
I think it means
So-
new roster, honestly.
It has to be a new roster. It has to be that probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
see.
any team that you can build around with cNed would be pretty good, and because the guy's still a skilled player, very very good. And if he went to a team that has the kind of like Turkish fan base already on it, I mean, you're just guaranteed amazing viewership whenever they play.
Yeah.
Amazing viewership whenever they play.
Yeah, you have-
without a doubt in my mind.
You have a mega clout at that point, but we'll see.
That's the
Maybe
obvious.
cNed announces something different, or maybe BBL are going with a variety of different players. I don't really know what that BBL team would end up looking like, but I hope that the Turkish teams and the French teams and the Spanish teams don't go too hard in making their teams regional and don't limit the talent and limit the teams as a result of that. That was my only concern with the EMEA system, perhaps. You know who isn't limiting their talent, though? And it's boggling my brain. Fucking Global Esports. The Indian team who are representing South Asia with 2 billion people, they tweeted themselves to represent. They're looking to sign AYRIN.
Yeah, this is.
And they
I
announced
actually
Oh, they
think
already
this is-
did. They already
They already
announced
signed
it.
him. They announced it. I think this is actually really cool.
I mean, they are global.
Because I mean, listen, if you're building a team and you're kind of like starting from the scratch, starting from the ground up, you've got a player it's like similar to who was the player that went over to APAC?
Well, Pith went over to
Patatech.
APAC
Yeah,
with
Wasn't
somebody else. I can't remember.
but it's
Was
the
it
same
not
concept
Patatech?
of you're getting a player with a ton of experience and you're putting them over into a brand new team to mold whatever players that you bring together there. But it's just it seems like a cool opportunity for AYRIN for one, because I imagine that he wasn't getting too many calls in the partnership systems of NA.
Yeah.
Even though I think that he brings a lot of intangibles. I think that he was the guy who was, when they split the IGLing, sounds like he's taking it in a more wholesale role where he's going to be handling the whole IGLing rather than just on
Yes.
one side of the map,
Yeah.
which is a big step up for him,
That is,
obviously. But he was that guy. I mean, I'll always speak to the kind of stuff that you don't see necessarily in the server, but his trading was fucking sick. I think
It was
at Champs.
actually
it
at
was,
Champs,
it was the
yeah.
best statistically at a certain point in time, which is a really nerdy stat to go into. But he was playing off of his team really well. And if he wants to move more into this IGL, kind of like the guy who's going to be molding talent around a team, I think this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think,
So Global Esports have already said that they want a 10-player roster. So they want to hit the roster limit, which is 10 players.
That is fucking crazy.
And I think
They're
their
not the only
idea,
one.
if I'm going to read between the lines, I think their idea is to have 5 Indian players, maybe the 5 that they have currently, or maybe just what they consider to be a 5-player super team from India, or maybe just from South Asia in general, maybe not just from India. And then add maybe like 5 global players too, to try and be like develop the other
how do you do that? With the
team.
The
import rule?
prestige.
So the import rule, I believe, has been misunderstood, along with me as well. I think you can actually have many import players on the roster, but only one when you actually play in the server. I'm not exactly sure, but I was there's something weird going on with the import rule. And I got in touch with somebody at Riot to try and clarify it, and they haven't responded yet, so I don't want to go too in detail without being 100%. But from my understanding, you can have more than one import player on the full roster. And I didn't think that was the case. But in communication with a guy that's involved in the rule setting at Riot, they implied that you could have up to 6 import players on the roster.
One can play on the server.
That's my understanding, but like I said, I need to clarify further. But I think it might be possible for them to have multiple import players who are signed with the idea being that they can like help develop the team and almost be, you know how Korean teams used to have sister teams that they would play against frequently and kind of train each other up.
Practice against them.
If I'm speculating here, that might be what Global Esports are going for.
Crazy that you're spending at least minimum per player to have a scrim team to play against. That
Also,
is just,
that's just ridiculous too, because that's like this. It's like the 6th player issue, but exacerbated to like the nth degree, aka the 10th player degree, because you're essentially committing that at least 4 of those players will not be playing consistently. You know, like even if you unless you perfectly rotate them in and out, like it's us with the Plat Chat recording schedule, and like, hey, you're playing this week, and like there's just no way. Like, but also, the only way it makes sense is it's the prestige. They didn't gotta be the prestige. That's it.
What they could do is just have AYRIN full-time in the roster for Indian players around or South Asian players around him, and then pick up like
that's their goal.
Newer talent and rotate them in.
They've got a hell of a task ahead of them because listen,
they do.
No disrespect to the Indian player base, but they just haven't had the structure in place to, I think, compete on the global level.
No,
but that takes a lot of time. I'm not saying it's not possible to do. You can do it if you wanted to go in that direction of just trying to develop talent, but it takes a long time. You're not going to get immediate results. You're not going to get results this year or next year, I should say.
I mean, you're committing to a many year project, right? Here,
that's something that's going to take so much time. But
yeah, how long did it take China to be good in Overwatch, for example, or even China in League of Legends took a while to spin up and be excellent. And that's with many teams. The player base in India might be super large, but unless you have many teams that are all
you're also thinking
taking different paths.
Those players are going to be going and living in Seoul, and that's where they're going to be based. It's not even like they're going to be the trickle down of you're feeding down meta developments and improvements towards the game by them scrimming against teams in the region of India. You're actually taking the best scrim players out of India, putting them in Seoul, and it's the same stuff that's happening presumably with LATAM and Brazil.
Yeah,
where they're going to be going and living in LA.
Yeah, so. Really tough, but so interesting.
If they decide to go down that route, I don't know.
They're already going in a weird direction, right? With picking up AYRIN as their first player.
But they can pick up players within the APAC region. It's not necessarily, they don't have to go for India. They can go for players in the APAC region, and that is, they could go all over the place. They could just have a full
Korean team if they wanted. They can do anything
with AYRIN.
It's a free country.
If they wanted to, if they wanted to go full Korean, but there's talent in Southeast Asia, there's talent in East Asia that they could pick from. I mean, they could go all over the place and build an absolutely bonkers roster.
There's talent in Australia that they could go for.
They could go for oceanic players.
Building an OC roster. Holy fuck.
Weirdly, I mean, they are perfectly placed. They're called Global Esports if they wanted to do something like that. I feel like their local fan base, though, would be annoyed about that. You have to, I feel like, in some sense, you have to give it the good old college try and attempt to make a good South Asian team before you just give up and become global. Like you have to try, don't you?
Yeah.
At least your fan base kind of demands it.
I imagine the way you'd go about that, rather than picking up a whole Indian team, would be picking out the best prospects from the region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm assuming a huge reason they got partnership, like a large reason, was also to help be a keystone development like pipeline for them. Like obviously, who knows, right? But I'm sure that partially played into it. It's like you have like a great pitch and you're strategically located to help us expand it like into the region further as we move on. So
intriguing. All right, so that's the big news for this week as well. We'll talk about other free agents and stuff like that in the coming weeks too as Roster Mania continues. How many more weeks of this have we got? What's the date today? The 4th, the 5th, something like that?
Today is the 5th.
October 5th. So we've got another 10 days. So we've essentially got 2 more episodes of Roster Mania.
Yeah.
And then it's all locked up in a bow.
Wow, some of it is.
Well,
there's
yeah,
still
yeah.
going to be changes
Yeah.
that will be made, I
But
think.
we'll have a good idea. We can do our first ever power rankings
We can see what
episode in
teams are
2
sitting.
weeks.
Yeah.
Oh no.
We
might
could.
we might have to spread out the content
We might.
because we've got from now until
There's a lot of
February.
off-season tournaments, though.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, there is.
We're gonna do the Tarek Ludwig Invitational recap episode. Ludwig was really good. I liked when Tarek said the funny thing on his co-stream.
That tournament should actually be good, though, because it looks like they're just inviting top teams
Yeah, but
running a
Tarek's
normal
there.
tournament.
I like Tarek a lot.
Let's go into our final topic, the most important topic every week, even though he's not here. Wyatt's Weekly Award.
It's Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Salsa.
I didn't realize it was the wrestling one
Yeah,
until...
it's wrestling, not
Yeah.
salsa. I thought it was
Salsa.
dancing.
Yeah, I mean,
thought it
dude,
was somebody-
no one should salsa dance.
Do you know what salsa dancing
gonna
is?
tackle you?
Not really. No, but I thought it was like some kind of dance.
Yeah, okay.
It
no,
is
it
a
was just
dance.
like-
It's not when you
They were
full
picking them
body
up by the waist and
tackled them.
spinning them around.
It's a wrestling one.
Okay.
The recipient of Wyatt's Weekly Award today, there was actually a tournament that went on, the G4 Rumble, but I'm not going to give it out for that. I'm instead going to give it to Bazooka from Loud, who I feel is very much underrated and not talked about when it comes to the success of this team and where they've been. But it takes somebody at the top that's doing a lot of work in order to set a culture correctly, and this will also be the players, specifically Sassy and Sadak, that'll help with this, but to set a culture correctly in a super team, to get players that you think are moldable here, to put the plans into place and have that long-term vision. Every time we talk to the players on Loud, the people behind Loud, they were talking about everything being focused on champions, and he's just taken home the biggest trophy that you can win in Valorant, and he's now a free agent looking to be picked up.
Yep.
I think this guy's done as much as you could possibly ask a coach to do this year, but he's not a huge personality, despite being an extremely lovely guy. So people don't talk about him too much. But wanted to give him the Wyatt's Weekly Award, and I've been very much looking forward to seeing where he lands and which organization takes a punt on him, whether it's Furia,
Which they should.
MIBR, whether
If he
Loud
ends
pick
up
him back
just
up.
being a free agent, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Considering how far he's gone with it, and he speaks English, right?
Yes, he
So
does
it's
very
like
well.
he's got all the assets that you could possibly need and want in a head coach position if you wanted to go in that direction. He should be getting picked up for partnership. It would be a crime if he's not.
Yeah, it would.
Good Wyatt's Weekly Award recipient. Well done.
Better
Very
than
good.
last week.
Good job. What
Well,
did we do for last week?
That fraud Wyatt won his
last
own
week,
award.
last week was I also, do you notice now that we have 2 different awards for 2, like both the awards on this one and the Overwatch podcast are generally for people that are no longer on the show, which I find funny.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
on the Overwatch show every now and then.
Also, Wyatt's been playing some Overwatch 2 yesterday, so maybe we should swap the awards. We'll do the Wyatt's Weekly
Yeah,
Award on the Overwatch
swap
show.
them
We'll
out.
do Bren's Player of the Week here on Valorant.
I think that'd be funny.
That does it then for episode 108, 109. What
I don't know.
what is
I
this?
think I had a dream that we were on episode 109, but
It's episode 108. It should be episode 107, but we skipped episode 104.
Bren was looking to try and skip another episode.
dude, I don't know.
I mean,
lost in
episode
the dream world, my
104
friend.
was the unreleased episode. We can just say that.
Yes,
Yep.
true.
Just go.
Unreleased.
Non-linear storytelling. The kids tell me it's
Yes.
all the rage these days.
That's big. People liked it in like Memento and stuff like that, and so I think it'll be good.
Yep. All right, so when we come back next week, we'll have free agent discussion to talk about. I'm sure there'll be more news and rumblings. And then the week afterwards, it'll be past October 15th, and we'll have all of our first active rosters set in stone. Or, very loose kind of
theory.
limestone.
Yeah,
that can
in
be
theory.
chipped away at any point.
Stone.
So we'll see you then. Have fun. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.